Chapter 1169. Happy now. Third Old Master and Third Madam of the Zhao family were deeply distressed by the unfortunate turn of events. Despite their son no longer being an officer and his future prospects being ruined, he was still their only child. Madame Lady Zhao was thoroughly disgusted with the mocking and sarcastic remarks made by the first and second sections of the Zhao family. These comments only served to further aggravate Third Old Master and his wife. Unfortunately, their financial situation made it impossible for them to use money to save their son's position. They had no choice but to raise the required funds themselves, which nearly depleted their private savings of 1,000 liang. Third Madam felt heartbroken, wondering why they had ever looked forward to returning to the capital when nothing but misfortune awaited them. Their son's failure to get promoted and earn a decent income not only affected him but also led to their daughter losing her marriage prospects. It felt like a great tragedy and an unforgivable sin. Third Old Master was infuriated, but he found himself unable to disobey the governmental order. So, begrudgingly, he took the 1,000 liang and personally handed it over to Zhao Yunduan, expecting him to have some sense of shame and not demand such a hefty sum. However, to his dismay, Zhao Yunduan accepted the money without uttering a word of thanks. Third Old Master's annoyance was evident as he sneered, "Are you satisfied now, Zhao Yunduan? I misjudged you, and I deeply regret it." Despite Third Old Master Qiao's denial of any regret, Zhao Yunduan could discern his true feelings. He must be regretting marrying Qiao Xian to me. Responding to Third Old Master's accusations, Zhao Yunduan maintained his composure and said, "I am satisfied with the compensation. Nobody should ignore being falsely accused. However, I assure you that I have not wronged you, and I don't agree with your accusations." Frustrated, Third Old Master glared at him, attempting to counter his claims, but he found himself unable to articulate a compelling argument. In retrospect, neither Third Old Master nor the Qiao family had supported Zhao Yunduan's endeavors to become an intermediate cultivated talent, provincial champion, or primus. After Qiao Xian got married, her own family never gave her any benefits. But Zhao Yunduan could not change that just because he did not want to admit it. But he was his father-in-law, his senior. Why was he so unfilial? Third Old Master's annoyance lingered, and he couldn't help but blame his mother and two brothers for breaking off the relationship with Qiao Xian. If they hadn't done that, things might not have turned out this way. However, he knew it was too late to change anything now. Attempting to regain his composure, Third Old Master couldn't resist taunting Zhao Yunduan. "You may feel proud now, but you still have a long way to go. Just wait and see, your ending won't be a pleasant one." Zhao Yunduan raised an eyebrow but chose to ignore the provocation. Having received the 1,000 liang, Zhao Yunduan couldn't help but think of his wife. He knew she would be delighted to be back, as she always enjoyed receiving money from the Qiao family. He regretted letting her go home in the first place. While everyone believed the matter was settled, including the fourth prince, honored Princess Mei, and her son, who decided not to take any immediate action, Zhao Yunduan had other plans. He made the decision to resign. Claiming that he had not anticipated such jealousy arising from Minister Old Yun's guidance, he suspected that an evil scheme was concocted to tarnish his reputation. While his reputation might recover, he couldn't bear the thought of Minister Old Yun being implicated in the process. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1171. Revenge. The fourth prince, seething with anger, crumpled the letter into pieces, cursing the crown prince for his hypocrisy and false kindness. The situation had become unbearable for him. Throughout his life, the crown prince had been accustomed to making concessions, leading everyone to take his compromises for granted. However, this time, the crown prince's behavior had crossed a line, and the fourth prince couldn't tolerate it any longer. In response to the crown prince's actions, he decided to counterattack with a stern warning, making it clear that he wouldn't stand such behavior. After all, if the crown prince's actions went unchecked, it would set a dangerous precedent for the future. Amused by the situation, the fourth prince smirked confidently as he held the torn letter in his hands. He knew the crown prince had no evidence left to defend himself. Furthermore, he believed that those who supported the crown prince were easily swayed and could be manipulated by anyone. He was certain that no one would dare speak against him and claim that they were telling the truth. The fourth prince considered the crown prince foolish and knew he wouldn't dare to break ties with him. This realization fueled his desire for revenge, and he decided to take matters into his own hands. As a first step, a mysterious fire broke out at the crown prince's residence on a stormy night. Rumors quickly spread that the heavens were angry at the crown prince, signaling that he was undeserving of his position, and the fire was a divine warning. Following this, several officials who supported the crown prince encountered difficulties, further intensifying the rumors that the crown prince was incompetent and unfit for his role. Seizing the opportunity, the second and third princes also capitalized on the situation and played their parts in causing further turmoil and chaos in the kingdom. That caused a huge commotion in the court. The crown prince was overwrought. He found himself trapped in a challenging situation where he couldn't explain why he deserved the position he held, and he felt powerless to change the perception others had of him. Being passive and doing nothing would lead to accusations of immorality, while taking any active measures would be interpreted as an attempt to buy the favor of the people. The crown prince was caught in a difficult position, and his actions were constantly under scrutiny. Despite these challenges, the crown prince diligently carried out his duties, striving to protect his people and ensuring that no one could find any evidence against him. Additionally, he made efforts to display filial piety towards Emperor Xian, seeking to garner support and trust from the ruler. The fourth prince and others had numerous options at their disposal, but the crown prince had to tread carefully as he was the one facing the most significant obstacles. It felt like he was constantly being held back, with limited options available to him. Meanwhile, a man named Zhao Yunduan left the town on a task assigned by the crown prince, and nobody else knew the details of this mission, including Songshi, who remained unaware of its nature. As part of his mission, Songshi was to wait in a distant village until he received a letter from his master, instructing him to return to the capital and deliver a message to Madame. Upon hearing this, Qiao Xian was both frightened and enraged by the revelation. Shame on the Qiao family. The fourth prince was also so shameless. On her journey back to the capital, her thoughts were suddenly consumed by the memory of the fourth prince's past malicious and wicked behavior. Fueled by her anger, she decided to take revenge, and this act brought her a sense of satisfaction, easing her emotional turmoil. Had she not retaliated, the continuous torment from the fourth prince's actions would have made her feel even worse, making it difficult for her to bear hearing all the recent events. Besides their despicable behavior, she wondered what else the fourth prince and his allies were capable of doing to harm others. Incredibly, Zhao Yunduan managed to survive the ordeal he had encountered. It seemed like he was fortunate not to have been truly drunk on that fateful night. Otherwise, Qiao Xian pondered whether she could have found it within herself to forgive him, even though she knew it wasn't entirely his fault. Furthermore, Qiao Wei's audacity to show interest in her man was an affront to her. That woman had no genuine care or affection for Zhao Yunduan in the first place. Fifth Madam, it is good that you are back. He will be so happy to know about this. He has been thinking about you all the time. Songshi felt a bit nervous seeing Qiao Xian's expression. He smiled and said, Qiao Xian threw a look at him and smiled. Did he let you meet him somewhere again? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1173. Different People. The three madams, Xiao Fang and Xiao Li, as well as the two young daughter-in-laws, as well as the well-respected aunts and maids were all present. That was very scary. Those who did not know what was going on would think that the Qiao family was just some rich and powerful family. But Qiao Xian had revealed their secret a few times, and they knew what was going on here. The moment she walked in, countless hostile eyes fell on her, without showing any fear. Qiao Xian raised her eyebrows, smiled and sat down directly. Gasps arose in the room, and some people could not help but look shocked. Some people were even adrift, feeling very uncomfortable and angry. After all, this was not the first time for Qiao Xian to visit the Qiao family. She and Xiao Yunduan had been here before for the spring examination. During that time, she behaved like a timid quail, not daring to utter a word behind Xiao Yunduan. However, the Qiao Xian standing before them now was a stark contrast. Dressed in beautiful clothes with a shining pearl hairpin adorning her smooth and neat bun, her exquisite makeup and confident posture elevated her temperament significantly. She appeared to be a completely different person. First, Madame Qiao gritted her teeth and felt a pang of bitterness in her heart. It was true what they said about arrogance. How could they accept being bullied by such a despicable person? But what bothered them the most was their powerlessness to do anything about it. Both her husband and she were successful, making it difficult to confront them. Second, Mrs. Qiao sneered. Qiao Xian, you don't even greet the senior members of the family, you have no respect for our rules. Qiao Xian glanced at her and replied coldly, rules? How ironic for the Qiao family to talk about rules with me. Rules are meant for those who actually follow them, not you. You, how dare you? Madame Lady Qiao's face twitched as she pointed at Qiao Xian. You bitch, how dare you? Qiao Xian turned to second Mrs. Qiao. Second Mrs. Qiao, did you see that? Madame Qiao of the Qiao family keeps spouting vulgar words. What rules are those talking about? You, Madame Lady Qiao shivered and panted. First Madame Qiao snapped. Qiao Xian, what on earth are you doing here? You are not welcome at the Qiao family. She felt incredibly embarrassed when she heard Madame Lady Qiao's hurtful words in front of the servants. Qiao Xian retorted, believe me, I don't want to be here either. We have nothing to do with each other, so let's mind our own business, shall we? But the Qiao family keeps causing trouble. Do you think my husband and I are easily bullied just because we have family connections in the capital? First, it was third old Master Qiao who pestered you, and now your young Master Qiao Hongxi is meddling and trying to set up my husband. What exactly is the Qiao family's motive? Besides resorting to despicable and shameless methods, do you even know anything else? The women from the Qiao family were so annoyed that they seemed ready to tear Qiao Xian apart. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1175. Bad luck? I am where I am today because of my husband's abilities. I have my own abilities too. What does that have to do with the Qiao family? Qiao Xian retorted confidently. Oh, so now you claim to have cut ties with the Qiao family. Well, thank you, Madame Lady Qiao, for severing that connection. Since breaking away from the Qiao family and distancing myself from its influence, my husband and I have been blessed with good fortune. Perhaps it's because we freed ourselves from the shackles of the Qiao family's destiny. In other words, the Qiao family's misfortune was dragging everyone down. You may be burdened with bad luck because of the Qiao family, but it's a different story for me. By freeing myself from your bad luck, I have changed my own fortune. Madame Lady Qiao grasped Qiao Xian's implications and felt like she was on the verge of collapsing. Absurd. Nonsense. You're just talking rubbish. Madame Lady Qiao vehemently rejected the notion that Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian could have possibly brought prosperity and success to their own lives. She refused to acknowledge their excellence. However, Qiao Xian's clever counterargument seemed to hit a nerve, and her words began to hold more weight in Madame Lady Qiao's mind. After all, stealing luck wasn't an easy feat. Additionally, Qiao Xian, being a lowly concubine's daughter in the Qiao family, never had the opportunity to seek the guidance of a Taoist master. As for the Qiao family's mansion in the capital, she had no intention of doing anything about it. On the contrary, since leaving the Qiao family and cutting all ties, she and her husband had achieved prosperity. This, to Qiao Xian, indicated that the problem lay with the Qiao family itself. Madame Lady Qiao's mental composure crumbled under Qiao Xian's relentless arguments, and she couldn't bear it any longer. Qiao Xian sneered, "That's not important. What matters is that I have completely disassociated myself from the Qiao family, and whatever I have now has nothing to do with you or them. I have no interest in the Qiao family's luck whatsoever. I'm here to warn you, and let this be the last time. If you ever try to set me up again, Don't blame me for being merciless. I'm sure no one from the Qiao family wants to suffer the same fate as Qiao Hongxi, right? How arrogant! Madame Lady Qiao's expression darkened, and so did the others present. Third Madam became even more furious. Qiao Xian, you despicable woman, you're threatening us. And if you perceive it as a threat, what will you do? If you think I'm merely joking and that I can't do anything to you, go ahead and test me. But remember, I've already warned you. If you provoke me, it'll be too late for regrets. Don't blame me for showing no mercy. Second Mrs. Qiao's eldest son was unconvinced. You seem awfully certain that you can do us harm. The Qiao family is a powerful clan in the intermediate capital, with prestigious titles. Your husband's family is nothing in comparison. Qiao Xian gazed at her deeply. You're welcome to try me. Second Mrs. Qiao struggled to find a response and held her breath in frustration. Internally, she felt vexed. Her son was about to take the imperial examination, and once he achieved the rank of advanced scholar and became an official, Zhao Yunduan would pale in comparison. First Madame Qiao shared a similar sentiment. However, her husband held a lower position as a sixth-ranked officer in the Ministry of Rights, and he couldn't match Zhao Yunduan, the new primus. Thus, she had no effective rebuttal against Qiao Xian's claims. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1176. Good luck. Thinking about this, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. She even held resentment towards the third branch of the family. What were they thinking? If they didn't want the concubine's daughter to stand out, they should have put more effort into suppressing her and hindering her progress. As the matriarch, she had control over the entire household, including the backyard. Why did Qiao Xian have to strive for the top position? But the Qiao family had been disgraced because of their grudge. It was frustrating that they, innocent bystanders, were forced to show respect to Qiao Xian. Qiao Xian glanced at them and stood up. Best of luck to all of you. The women from the Qiao family felt their faces burn with humiliation. They needed to preserve their reputation, otherwise, the household staff would no longer respect them. First Madame Qiao replied coldly, same to you. Don't get too arrogant, and remember that there's a long road ahead. The Qiao family will never lack promising descendants. Qiao Xian smiled. That's not my concern. But if any of you ever try to scheme against my husband and me again, be prepared for the consequences. You. Bye. Qiao Xian walked away with Li Xia and Li Qiu, leaving the Qiao family in a state of helplessness. They could only watch her departure without daring to take any action. Zhao Yunduan held the favor of the crown prince, and Qiao Xian's position in the court was uncertain. If she were to get hurt while handling the peonies, the consequences for the Qiao family would be dire. It was a humiliating situation for them. She's so arrogant and wicked. How can someone with such rude manners go far? She manages to offend people the moment she opens her mouth. Just wait and see, someone will surely punish her. Yes, she will learn her lesson. The Qiao family may not be a powerful family, but neither is she. There's no need to engage in an argument with her. First Madam and Second Mrs. Qiao attempted to defend themselves, feeling indignant as they desperately tried to convince themselves of their righteousness. In their minds, what they said appeared to make perfect sense. Madame Lady Qiao's expression softened as she dismissed the maids and aunts and scolded Third Madame Qiao. Third Madame Qiao became so enraged that she almost lashed out at Madame Lady Qiao. After venting her anger, Madame Lady Qiao grew tired and waved her hands to dismiss everyone, leaving only her daughter-in-law behind. Third Mrs. Qiao trembled and struggled to stand, relying on Auntie Ling's help. With reddened eyes, she left Madame Lady Qiao's presence. Once back in her room, she collapsed and lost consciousness. Auntie Ling called for help and assisted her to lie down, but she dared not make any noise, fearing that Madame Lady Qiao might accuse her of feigning fainting to portray herself as the victim of her mean daughter-in-law. Auntie Ling couldn't help but cry, feeling distressed for Madame Qiao. Qiao Xian had gone too far. How could she hate her family? Madame Qiao was her lineal mother, and without her and old master, she wouldn't be where she was today. Yet, she held on to grudges and overlooked the good, causing Madame Qiao's current state. Upon hearing of Qiao Xian's presence, Qiao Wei was startled and dared not approach her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1177. Annoyed. She had not anticipated that she would develop a fear of Qiao Xian. Otherwise, she would have become even more annoyed. Rushing to her mother's room upon hearing she had returned, she found her lying there unconscious and pale. Filled with panic, she anxiously inquired about what had happened. Auntie Ling understood Qiao Wei's temperament well and knew she couldn't reveal the truth. If Qiao Wei became so infuriated that she confronted Second Miss again, it would put Qiao Wei at a disadvantage and might implicate Old Master and Madame Qiao as well, considering their already precarious situation. With a smile, Auntie Ling cleverly changed the subject, mentioning that Madame Qiao's recovery was still ongoing, and she found it difficult to sit in Madame Lady Qiao's place any longer. Initially silent, Qiao Wei finally spoke in a small voice, her lips trembling. Qiao Xian is involved too, isn't she? Auntie Ling couldn't deny it, as that would sound far too disingenuous. She sighed, her voice tinged with concern. Miss, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to remain in the mansion. Madam is unwell, and as for young master, you should simply focus on living a good life. There's no need for you to take any action. Madam will surely protect you. Qiao Wei let out a derisive snort, fully understanding Auntie Ling's implications. Auntie Ling was advising her to behave and not stir up trouble. But how could she just accept that? Xiao Yunduan was nothing more than a rustic man from the countryside, while she belonged to a noble family in the capital. How dare he treat her so indifferently? It infuriated her. Auntie, I deeply regret not punishing Qiao Xian severely enough for her to give up on her devious plans. Qiao Wei exclaimed with frustration. Auntie Ling's heart skipped a beat, and she remained silent. She knew that Madame had expressed this sentiment numerous times before. At that moment, third Madame Qiao woke up from her slumber. Upon seeing her own daughter, her eyes welled up with tears as she gazed at Qiao Wei, attributing all of this to Xiao Yunduan's connection with Qiao Xian, the one responsible for their current predicament. Mom! Qiao Wei rushed into her arms, weeping uncontrollably. Mom, please just find me a suitable family. Nothing else matters. What's important is that I can confront Qiao Xian, that wretched woman. I'll marry anyone I want. Third Madame's expression shifted. I loathe her. Qiao Wei clenched her teeth while still embracing her mother. In this lifetime, she knew she would never find a decent suitor. So, as long as she could make Qiao Xian suffer, she would find some solace in her heart. She realized that if she didn't comply with He Jiqing's demands, He Jiqing would refuse to assist her, leaving her with no external support. Third Mrs. Qiao closed her eyes, and tears streamed down from the corners as both mother and daughter cried with their hands over their heads, seeking solace in each other's embrace. As Qiao Xian departed from the Qiao family, she let out a sigh of relief, feeling a sense of ease now that she was away from the turmoil. If the Qiao family refused to cooperate with her plans, she wouldn't back down so easily. With her extraordinary abilities, she knew she could effortlessly wreak havoc at the Qiao mansion under the cover of night. Deciding not to stay in the capital any longer, Qiao Xian instructed Li Xia and Li Qiu to organize the gifts they had brought home. She then asked Songshi to deliver them to the young master of Lord Anping Manor. The young master was still a child, and she believed he would appreciate the various gifts. What Qiao Xian was unaware of, though, was that news of her actions, specifically her intrusion into the main house and the gate of the fourth prince's house, had already spread throughout the capital among the noble and high-class circles. Despite it being a side house and not the actual residence of the fourth prince, it held sentimental value for him, representing an extension of his mansion. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1178. Furious, it was a catastrophic event when the gate collapsed, and the entire house sank into the ground. This incident had serious implications as the Crown Prince believed he had been set up by the fourth prince. In order to regain his position, the Crown Prince knew he had to retaliate, but he also understood that his followers might not agree with his approach. Although he was known for being magnanimous, the Crown Prince had his limits, and he couldn't let this betrayal slide. After being humiliated by the fourth prince, he intended to strike back when the opportunity arose. Being the Crown Prince meant he had to uphold certain principles and a sense of responsibility. Without maintaining his integrity and principles, he wouldn't be worthy of the title. After the fourth prince took over, rumors about him spread like wildfire, signifying the concept of heaven's fury. The mysterious collapse of the front door and main room of the courtyard without any warning raised questions about the divine intervention, indicating that the heavens themselves disapproved of the situation. At the East Palace, attempts were made to downplay the incident, attributing it to a simple accident caused by the servants. However, the Crown Prince's supporters demanded a proper investigation before accepting such explanations. The fourth prince, his mother, and their supporters were startled and apprehensive after the investigation results were revealed, possibly realizing the gravity of their actions. They couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and respect for the Crown Prince's determination to seek justice and reclaim his position. Upon hearing about the incident, Emperor Xian grew annoyed and puzzled. He questioned why the heavens seemed to meddle in other people's affairs, first warning the Crown Prince and now turning their attention to fourth sister. In response, Emperor Xian ordered his men to conduct an investigation at both the Crown Prince and fourth prince's mansions. However, this swift action didn't leave enough time for the fourth prince to offer a proper explanation to the public. The Crown Prince, on the other hand, was transparent about the situation. He clarified that the fire was an accidental result of a servant's actions, which coincided with a thunderstorm followed by rain. He suggested that the fourth prince's men might have used this opportune moment to stir up trouble. The collapse at the fourth prince's place remained a mystery, as even the Ministry of Architecture couldn't identify its cause, making the situation seem inexplicable. This unusual circumstance was difficult to comprehend, as it involved forces beyond human control, like the heavens. The fourth prince, feeling a mix of anger and fear, became more compliant in light of these events. Even Emperor Xian was taken aback by the situation, wondering if it truly reflected the will of the heavens. The possibility that fourth sister and her allies had overstepped their bounds to the extent that it drew the heavens' displeasure crossed Emperor Xian's mind. He understood the Crown Prince's nature, kind, gentle, generous, and virtuous, but didn't take strict action regarding his children's occasional conflicts, turning a blind eye to such disputes. Deep inside his heart, he couldn't shake off the lingering fear of the Crown Prince. Despite the Crown Prince's filial and virtuous nature, he couldn't entrust the entire governance of the country solely to him. After all, securing his position as the next emperor of the Qin dynasty was of utmost importance. For this reason, he found comfort in the presence of his second, third, and fourth sons. Having them around provided a sense of assurance and stability. At times, he couldn't help but think that the Crown Prince lacked the strength to handle such responsibilities, leading him to occasionally overlook his actions and decisions. Chapter 1179. House and land. As long as the brothers refrained from causing any trouble, he would leave them be. Being still young, there was no urgent need for him to decide whom to entrust the empire to. To his surprise, heavens will seem to favor the Crown Prince. This was a relief, as he didn't have to worry about the Crown Prince's filial piety. Qiao Xian was completely clueless about what was happening. Having asked someone to deliver gifts to Lord Anping Manor, she visited the 20 mu of land in the north of the town the next day. The project had already been completed, and it had cost a considerable amount of money to encircle the entire land with a high brick wall. However, her plan was to cultivate large quantities of potatoes and strawberries, which required proper wrapping and care. Additionally, they would grow various other vegetables, ensuring a steady harvest of fresh produce. Inside the vast walled area, there was a flat patch of green bricks, which served as a place for drying and sorting after the harvest. On both sides of the flat land, a row of houses had been built. On one side stood a cozy house, providing a place for them to take short breaks, while on the other side, a spacious storeroom was conveniently situated. Beneath the storeroom lay a cellar almost as large as the main structure. In front of the house, a pit had been carefully dug, and an assortment of pomegranates, magnolias, sweet osmanthus, and ginkgo trees had been planted. Though their trunks were currently bare, come spring, they would sprout and create a beautiful patch of greenery. The fields had been meticulously divided into neat and organized sections, yet at this time of the year they appeared bare, devoid of any crops. Despite the empty appearance, a sense of achievement washed over Qiao Xian as she pondered the land she had acquired in the capital. She had a house and land in the capital. Qiao Xian felt an immense sense of satisfaction. She praised Songshe and asked him to visit her occasionally. Her next step was to establish a partnership with a reliable fruit store so she could sell her strawberries to others. Finding the right collaborator was not an easy task. The person had to possess good character, be trustworthy and fair, while also avoiding any trace of greed. This required a cautious approach. Confidently, Songshe agreed that he would make it happen without any issues. The next day, a representative from Lord Anping Manor arrived to deliver presents to Qiao Xian. It was Auntie Zhu, the trusted aide of the princess consort of the prefecture lord. Qiao Xian and Auntie Zhu shared a close familiarity. Before Auntie Zhu even had a chance to greet her, Qiao Xian warmly welcomed her inside and expressed concern about Song's well-being, asking how he liked the gifts. Auntie Zhu happily confirmed that the gifts were well received by Songshe and the princess consort of the prefecture lord. She also conveyed Madame Zhao's deep longing for Songshe. Smiling, Qiao Xian remarked, "He is an innocent soul, and those who know him will treat him with kindness." Auntie Zhu laughed, agreeing wholeheartedly, "Indeed, our young master is truly pure-hearted." After a few moments of casual conversation, Auntie Zhu shared some important news. The prefecture lord and the princess consort of the prefecture lord are planning to spend the new year at the princess consort's home with their son and stay there for a considerable period. They might not return for a year or two, or even 3 to 5 years. It's truly a pity. Madame Zhao, you and Officer Zhao must take good care of yourselves. The climate in the capital can be quite unpredictable, so it's crucial to be attentive to your well-being and avoid any harm to your health. Chapter 1180. No more relations. Qiao Xian was taken aback by Auntie Zhu's implications. Sensing the underlying concern in her words, she responded, "You're right, Auntie. We are in unfamiliar territory, and it's essential to take care of ourselves, especially during the harsh winter ahead. We can't afford to let our guard down, or we'll face great difficulties. No one will sympathize with us then and we'll suffer." With a subtle smile, Qiao Xian used the opportunity to discreetly dismiss Li Xia and Li Qiu, asking them to attend to the maids who had accompanied Auntie Zhu and offer them tea and snacks. Once they were gone, Qiao Xian turned to Auntie Zhu with genuine concern, bowing slightly and speaking sincerely, "Auntie, please guide me and offer your wisdom." "No need to bow to me." Auntie Zhu gently helped Qiao Xian back up, feeling both gratified and saddened. She appreciated how easily she could converse with such an intelligent person like Qiao Xian, who seemed to grasp everything without the need for explicit explanations. However, her sadness stemmed from the realization that from that moment onward, the young master would no longer visit the Zhao residence to spend time with her and Officer Zhao. The close bond between the two families would also be affected, and they would no longer have the same opportunities to hang out together. Auntie Zhu reminisced about how the young master cherished Madame Zhao and Officer Zhao. Whenever Madame Zhao was absent, the young master would spend hours with Officer Zhao, enjoying their time together. They would sometimes engage in playful activities, and the young master relished those moments. In the eyes of the servants, the young master's happiness was of utmost importance, outweighing all other considerations. Auntie Zhu carefully chose her words, not wanting to be too explicit. She sighed, wearing a gentle smile. Officer Zhao and Minister Old Yun are old friends. It's no surprise that he possesses such great talent, earning recognition from the emperor and crown prince. Despite his young age, he has already joined the Ministry of Revenue from the Hanlin Academy, promising a bright future ahead. However, as time goes on, he will be engrossed in official duties, and Madame Zhao will have to attend numerous social gatherings, leaving them with very little free time. Our son enjoys his leisure, and we wouldn't want to impose upon him any further. Besides, the prefecture lord and the princess consort of the prefecture lord would feel remorseful too. Madame Zhao, once I take this step, let's forget about mentioning it again. Serving alongside a ruler is akin to keeping company with a tiger. Officer Zhao's rise to prominence has attracted suspicion and envy from many quarters. Numerous eyes are watching him closely from afar. Both you and Officer Zhao need to be cautious. If someone plots against him, even the Crown Prince might find it challenging to come to his defense. But the Crown Prince is kind-hearted, and if you ever encounter any trouble, don't hesitate to ask him for help. He will surely assist you. Xiao Xian couldn't help but feel uneasy. A tinge of sadness and reluctance crept into her heart as she contemplated leaving. While she appreciated the genuine concern expressed, she understood the underlying meaning behind "not to disturb." It wasn't that they didn't want to stay connected, but rather that they couldn't. Prefecture Lord Anping and his wife had only one child, and they were determined to avoid any entanglements in the imperial court. The entire Lord Anping manor, led by Prefecture Lord Anping, distanced themselves from such matters. If Zhao Yunduan had merely been an editor at the Imperial College, the two families could continue their close association. However, things had changed now. Zhao Yunduan was branded as part of the Crown Prince's circle, leading to Lord Anping Manor's reluctance to maintain the same level of interaction. Their decision was driven by a desire to stay away from any potential conflicts. Whether actively or passively involved, they didn't want to risk getting entangled in political affairs. Their ultimate goal was to protect the young heir. By distancing themselves from such matters, they believed the new emperor would take good care of him even after their passing. In the end, everything they did was for the young master's well-being. Thank you for Princess Consort's concern. Chapter 1181. Escort. It's becoming colder in the capital, and the prefecture lord and the princess consort of the prefecture lord are concerned about the young master's well-being. It's a wise decision to take him out of the capital for the winter, providing him with a more comfortable life. If fate permits, we may cross paths again. Princess consort of the prefecture lord, you need not worry. Your kind-hearted nature ensures that you will always lead a blessed life. Auntie Zhu was delighted with the words she heard and couldn't help but smile warmly. She responded with a gentle expression, "Madame Zhao, you are absolutely right. Thank you for your kind words. I believe our young master will be safe and sound. Oh, I should mention that the prefecture lord's mansion is still guarded by some elderly servants, although the prefecture lord and the princess consort have left with the young master. Although we have a limited number of people at the mansion, they are all long-serving loyal servants, some even from the family lineage. From this moment on, if Officer Zhao and Madame Zhao encounter any difficulties, you can send someone to contact our housekeeper. He is well informed about the happenings in the capital and has a wide network. Perhaps he can offer some assistance." Xiao Xian's heart was warmed by the support she received. "Thank you for informing me, Auntie. I sincerely appreciate the concern and assistance from the prefecture lord and the princess consort. Rest assured, if I ever face any trouble, I will not hesitate to seek help from the housekeeper." Auntie Zhu smiled. "Don't mention it, Madame Zhao, since the princess consort of the prefecture lord has already said so." Deep inside, Auntie Zhu felt a sigh escape her. Madame Zhao's destiny seemed intertwined with that of the princess consort of the prefecture lord and the young master, yet she had to part ways with them. After a brief exchange of words, Auntie Zhu bid her farewell and departed. Xiao Xian accompanied her to the door, expressing her well wishes for their safety and well-being. She knew she could no longer visit Lord Anping Manor. A sense of sadness and disappointment washed over her. She had looked forward to spending time with the young master once they returned to the capital. The young master was like a child, and he was truly endearing. Xiao Xian returned to her room absent-mindedly and unwrapped the presents Auntie Zhu had given her. It was only now that she realized the abundance of gifts bestowed upon her by the princess consort of the prefecture lord. The box contained over 30 exquisite treasures, each one more splendid than the last. Among them were thumb-sized pearls, peepholes, tourmaline, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and white jade. The most eye-catching item was a foot-high statue of a white jade goddess, exquisitely crafted. In addition, there was a pair of beautifully designed green bottles and 2 famous paintings from the previous dynasty. Unlike typical palace gifts, these treasures were meant for display and enjoyment. Each item carried an air of elegance and refinement that would surely be the envy of any visitor to her home. Such precious gifts were usually kept securely, not displayed openly, as they could easily be mishandled or misunderstood, leading to unintended disrespect. Jewelry could be worn, especially on important occasions, but it needed to be preserved well, and it could not be sold. The princess consort of the prefecture lord of Anping was known for her thoughtfulness and kindness. Xiao Xian felt a pang of sadness when she thought about the couple being forced to leave the capital with their son, all because of the troubles they had unwittingly become entangled in. Her heart sank even further when she considered how her husband had ended up involved with the crown prince's gang. Little did she know that the crown prince had not ascended to the throne and, as a result, his future looked grim. In other words, he would not have a favorable outcome. As the heir to the throne, he would either meet an untimely demise or be imprisoned. History showed that most of them met their end. After all, no new emperor wanted to keep such hidden dangers around. Chapter 1182. One step at a time. By that time, his followers would not be able to do anything good. However, things had already developed to this point, and there was no turning back. Xiao Xian hesitated. Would she pester Xiao Yunduan to betray the crown prince? The thought troubled her deeply. On the other hand, Xiao Yunduan wasn't willing to accept her, and the consequences of betrayal were uncertain. Who should they turn to after the betrayal? This question weighed heavily on their minds as they knew that betraying the crown prince would offend many, leading to potentially dire consequences. Moreover, bad luck seemed to loom on the horizon, casting a dark shadow over their decisions. Xiao Xian let out a heavy sigh. Emotionally torn, she decided to take it one step at a time. She acknowledged that the pictures she had seen might not reveal the whole truth, leaving room for doubt. In any case, she hoped that things might turn around. Even if something had truly happened, they could plan ahead and stay vigilant. The option of slipping away if they sensed danger provided a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. She was able to protect herself and Xiao Yunduan with her superpower, which brought some comfort amidst the uncertainty. Additionally, Xiao Yunduan wasn't a highly significant figure, and he could simply leave after resigning. The new emperor might not resort to killing them all, but it was crucial for him to assess the situation and determine his options. Xiao Xian managed to calm herself down as she considered this perspective. 2 days later, the family of 3 from Lord Anping Manor departed from the capital quietly, avoiding unnecessary attention. Xiao Xian refrained from visiting or bidding them farewell, but she entrusted Songshi to keep a watchful eye on their departure. The news of their departure saddened her deeply. The uncertainty of when they would meet again weighed heavily on her heart. With nothing else to do, she waited for Xiao Yunduan to return home. As the days grew colder, she found herself longing for his company. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yunduan's governmental officers and women began visiting her almost daily, disrupting the solitude she had expected. Madame Lin and the others from the Hanlin Academy were all present, displaying polite and friendly attitudes towards Xiao Xian. Some of them seemed cheerful and lively, exuding a passionate aura. Xiao Xian felt compelled to reciprocate their friendliness and treated them in a similar amiable manner. However, she understood that their visits were primarily for Xiao Yunduan's sake and, more accurately, for the influence of the crown prince behind him. Sucking up to the crown prince was a privilege not granted to everyone, especially for middle-class officials who favored connections with the lower class. For some low-ranking officers, their entire lives in the governmental office might not lead to a meeting with the crown prince. Given the opportunity to associate with Xiao Yunduan, they wouldn't let it slip away. Though they might not immediately gain substantial benefits, they saw potential advantages in the future. As Qiao Xian observed them, she noticed their enthusiasm, yet she struggled to find someone she genuinely connected with. Her amicable behavior was merely a facade, as she felt the lack of true companionship among them. Madame Su and Madame Lin stood out as the most intriguing cases. They had never treated Qiao Xian kindly in the past and had been openly hostile towards her. Their reappearance at her door made them appear somewhat embarrassed by their past behavior. Qiao Xian could sense their jealousy towards her and Xiao Yunduan. True, not many people in this world could compare to First Madame and the princess consort of the prefecture lord. Finally, Xiao Yunduan returned home. In the afternoon, while Qiao Xian was chit-chatting with Li Qiu and Li Xia on the heated Kong, his surprised voice rang out. "Fifth Master is back. Fifth Madam, Fifth Master is back." Chapter 1183. Back. The three girls in the room were both surprised and happy. Fifth Master is finally back. That is great. Qiao Xian's eyes sparkled as she rushed out of the stove. She ran into Xiao Yunduan the moment she walked out of the room, almost bumping into his chest. Qiao Xian got startled. Before she could utter a sound of surprise, Xiao Yunduan took her into his arms. "Darling." Qiao Xian flushed and threw herself into his arms, saying coquettishly, "You are finally back." The familiar scent and hug made her face even hotter, but she felt sweetness in her heart. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and kissed her hair. "It is my fault for making you wait. You can ask for any compensation you want." Qiao Xian laughed. Xiao Yunduan smiled too. The two of them exchanged a look, looking so gentle. Xiao Yunduan took her into the room. Li Xia, Li Qiu, and Songshi did not follow them in. They were all hiding somewhere. It was very quiet in the room and yard. It was quiet and warm, very suitable for something to happen. The two of them couldn't help but hug and kiss each other. There was no need to ask what happened after they left. They were here safe and sound, which was better than anything else. They could talk about other things later. Qiao Xian could not help but feel the closeness between her body and heart. She was lifted up by Xiao Yunduan, and she let out a cry of surprise as she wrapped her arms around his neck subconsciously. She looked up subconsciously and saw his dark, smiling, affectionate, and gentle eyes. She looked away shyly, making Xiao Yunduan chuckle. He carried her into the bedroom. After a fun and passionate time, the two of them fell asleep in each other's arms, and when they woke up, it was already the time for the lantern. Qiao Xian's body was aching, but she did not want to move. But she felt so satisfied inside her heart, as if her heart had finally settled down. Then she realized that Li Qiu and Li Xia did not disturb them, which meant that they knew what their mistresses were doing in the room. So she felt a bit embarrassed. She snorted and covered her face with the blanket. Xiao Yunduan took her in arms and sighed with satisfaction. "Darling, so glad that you are back." Qiao Xian could not help but laugh. She snapped at him. "Oh yeah, I thought that you men would think that it is better when your wife is not around. Wouldn't it be great if he could do whatever he wanted?" Xiao Yunduan's hands tightened around her waist. "Of course not. I miss you every day." Qiao Xian snorted and could not help but complain. "I was lucky this time, but luck is always uncertain. Who knows what will happen next time? Let me tell you, I will not forgive you even if it is not your fault." She was going to keep the yoke on the shoulders and not going to listen to anything that might cause her trouble. She kept telling him about her bottom line, so he would be more cautious and cautious. If she had never mentioned this, he would not have paid so much attention to this, and he would have missed the secret. If something like this was a miss once, it might happen twice or 3 times. More importantly, Qiao Xian would not accept any amiss at all. She was going to throw up if she lost the man she had taken a fancy to. Chapter 1184. We are family. If you were interested in my little sister, this journey wouldn't be so boring, Iron Tower thought. According to his initial plan, his sister should have become Taoist couples with Han Feiyu and given birth to a child during this long journey. If everything went well, his little nephew should be at the foundation establishment stage now, capable of flying freely in the sky. Unfortunately, things didn't go well. Thinking about this, Iron Tower sighed deeply. Eldest brother, you're sighing while we're eating. What's up? Iron Blue approached with a plate of crystal long meat and asked. It's nothing. Just feel that the three of us seem to lack something, feeling a bit lonely, Iron Tower hinted evasively. Iron Blue blushed and returned to cooking following the cookbook. Han Feiyu, on the other hand, casually continued his meal. Had grown immune to such comments after hearing them frequently. Brother Iron, the journey back to my sect is long. Are you too sure you still want to accompany me? It's been almost 60 years now, Han Feiyu stated, aware that the journey back to the sect might take centuries. He didn't want to involve the siblings. What are you talking about? Are you getting tired of us? Iron Tower opened his eyes wide, showing a hint of anger in his voice. Of course not. I was just thinking that since we've already received the signal from Ice Realm Immortal City, it won't be long before we can teleport there. I heard there are several esteemed ones guarding that place. It won't be as easy to breach like Ice Abyss Immortal City. You too could live a peaceful life there, Han Feiyu hurriedly added. He had the siblings' best interests at heart. He had even secretly prepared farewell gifts to ensure the siblings could practice their cultivation without worry. A large hand heavily slapped Han Feiyu on the shoulder. Brother Su, do you acknowledge me as your elder brother? Iron Tower asked seriously. Of course, we have helped each other out on this journey. You've saved my life. I absolutely will consider you as my elder brother, Han Feiyu solemnly replied. Iron Blue and I have no relatives left in the extreme North Territory. From now on, we're a family. Wherever you go, we go. No matter how difficult or far it is, even if it's the end of the earth, we will follow you. Iron Tower asserted. My journey home might take 200 years, maybe 300 years. Even if it takes 1,000 years or 2,000 years, we siblings will still follow you. Whenever you find us annoying, just let us know, and my sister and I will leave, Iron Tower interjected, interrupting Han Feiyu. He knew his sister's personality. Once she set her heart on someone, she wouldn't give up. As the elder brother, it was only right to support her. According to Iron Tower's thinking, with time, affinity would grow. If there was no affection, it indicated that they had not spent enough time together. Eldest brother, thank you for following me, Han Feiyu expressed his gratitude. The journey was indeed long and he did need companionship. It says in the sex manual, if embarking on a long journey, forming a team is the best choice. The prerequisite is that those teaming up with you are willing to share joy and sorrow. He had contemplated staying in Immortal City to cultivate until his level increased before returning to the sect. However, recent events made him realize that without a powerful backing, nowhere was safe. Therefore, he particularly missed the days back in his sect, except for the occasional fear that his Jade Gourd's extraordinary fortune would be discovered by others. Those were the most enjoyable and comfortable days Head ever had. What are you talking about? We are family, Iron Tower responded with a hearty laugh. At this moment, Iron Blue brought out another dish, stir-fried spiritual lettuce. This is the last dish. What were you guys chatting about just now? You seemed really happy, asked Iron Blue. Brother Han was sharing some of his fun stories from his time at the sect. Iron Tower replied with a smile. Brother Su, can you tell me about it? I rarely hear you talk about the old times in the sect. Iron Blue curiously said she wanted to know the stories of her beloved person in the past. In the sect, I have a good brother named Sword Wuji. We used to be, having nothing to do, Han Feiyu began to talk about the amusing incidents in the sect in the past. At the Hidden Spirit sect, Su Fan let his temporary avatar replace him in refining the railgun, and his real body began to slack off. He found that the temporary avatar was becoming more and more useful, so he took the time of artifact refining to strengthen the avatar divine ability. Now when he sends out temporary avatars, he can slack off for half a month. By the sky blue spirit liquid lake, Su Fan was having a heart-to-heart talk with a dragon egg. Don't be comparing the hardness of your eggshell with other dragon eggs. What if you break it? Su Fan patiently instructed the dragon egg who had made an oath with him. This dragon egg, standing in front of Su Fan, stubbornly hopped twice, crushing its hard stone base to make a small pit, proving its toughness. Then what do you do if you accidentally break another dragon egg? Su Fan said again. At this moment, the dragon egg bounced and dove right into the sky-blue spirit liquid lake. Then another green-skinned dragon egg enjoying its time in the spirit liquid lake was knocked into the air and fell heavily in front of Su Fan. It enlarged the small pit made earlier one more time. Is this the result of your teaching? Why are you so argumentative? Su Fan frowned and looked at the Tianji turtle. The Tianji turtle looked up at Su Fan. How is this a good thing? Just causing me trouble, not at all behaved like a good baby. Su Fan scolded. Then the Tianji turtle looked at Su Fan like he was an idiot. Why would you treat a spiritual beast with a true dragon lineage like a good baby? The call of Tianji turtle contained a bit of perplexity. Although it didn't like moving, it understood that the more an infant spiritual beast moved around, the better it was for them. What am I even trying to compete with you about? Su Fan laughed at his own behavior. I will have someone specially supervise this dragon egg. You just come to tell stories. Su Fan said. He felt that if this Tianji turtle kept training these eggs, they would be ruined. I don't even want to be in charge, I can rest more in the future. The Tianji turtle said lazily and began to walk towards the spirit liquid lake. Pu Tao, assign a puppet to specifically educate these dragon eggs for their all-round development in morality, intelligence, physical fitness, aesthetics, and labor skills. Su Fan instructed. Yes, master. Pu Tao's voice responded. Looking at the 6 dragon eggs playing in the spirit liquid lake, Su Fan gently beckoned, and the 6 dragon eggs were mysteriously pulled by a force and all came in front of him. All right, today I'll tell you a story. Su Fan spoke kindly and amiably. The 6 dragon eggs jumped in succession to express their satisfaction. Finally, Su Fan began to educate them by telling stories about how to be a good child and how to be able to reassure their parents. After Su Fan's series of efforts, these 6 dragon eggs finally understood the difference between good and bad children, then they began to happily be the bad kids again. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1185. A Plan. The 4th prince was very aggressive, and Empress Qi, the 3rd prince, the niece of the late Empress Dowager, Princess Concubine Virtue, and her 2nd prince were all up to something. But the 2 of them did not make any big moves, but kept making a cheap shot, a cheap trick. They were all hoping that the 4th prince and the crown prince would kill each other first. The emperor was still in good health, and the crown prince might have to live in fear for many more years. He was not sure if he could make it. Zhao Yunduan had not thought much about this. He could just leave with his daughter-in-law, but that was not going to happen now. He had let down his daughter-in-law. He was going to make it up to her. On the surface, Zhao Yunduan was helping the crown prince inspect the granaries in Hebei, but, in fact, he was heading towards the crown prince's mansion in Miyun County to deal with the reservoir. The land in Miyun County had been very large these years, and the irrigation could not keep up. The crown prince had a field there that covered 500 hectares. A while ago, the manager of the field reported to the East Palace, saying that he wanted to repair the canal before the new year, in case it affected next year's plowing. That was a very natural thing, and the East Palace would not turn that down. Coincidentally, when Zhao Yunduan was out in the capital, the crown prince asked him to check on the progress of the canal repair. 500 hectares of fields were not a small amount, and the crown prince was not going to overlook that. But Zhao Yunduan noticed something wrong. The imperial plantation was fine, and the canals could be repaired as well. The problem was a dam upstream. Zhao Yunduan had been here with Qiao Xian before, and Qiao Xian wanted to climb mountains and find wild fruits and mushrooms, so he agreed. Zhao Yunduan clearly remembered that 2 months ago, when he and his wife came to climb mountains and see if there were any wild things, the dam did not exist. How long had it been? The dam had already blocked the water so high and wide. At this moment, when the crown prince's mansion was repairing the canal, Xiao Yunduan subconsciously connected the dam. For some reason, he felt that something was wrong. He asked his men to get a map of the local area and read it with the housekeeper at the abbey. They were both startled. It would be fine if the dam was fine, but if it collapsed, not only would the canal they were repairing be affected, but the village in the low-lying area would be affected as well. If they did not escape in time, half of the village would be fed to the fish, and many people would die. The housekeeper frowned. I didn't notice that. When did someone block such a dam in the mountains? That doesn't seem right. What are they trying to do? Xiao Yunduan said, the crown prince is at the center of attention right now, and we need to be careful. We can't keep the dam. What if the whole thing was made clear? The canal was built at the crown prince's imperial plantation, and if the dam collapsed at this moment and caused the flood to hit the village, causing death and injury, the two incidents would be easily connected. It might have been caused by the crown prince's canal repair. They were all water and they could talk together. Most importantly, the dam was so strange that the housekeeper had no idea what was going on. Normally, they should have informed the imperial plantation when the dam was only a few meters away from the crown prince's imperial plantation. But that was not the case. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 462, 450 Righteous Backstab _1 Mel City was beyond salvation. Neither the quality nor the quantity of the defenders could match the combined forces of the monsters and the Nord people. Camilla knew this from the beginning, but he didn't expect Mel City to fall so quickly. At the same time, he never thought that he would be on the verge of death at the hands of a goblin due to his own arrogance. At this moment, Duke Carmela was covering the wound on his waist, gasping heavily. At first, he didn't take this wound seriously. Even though he was poisoned, after all, he was a legendary powerhouse, and ordinary toxins usually had little effect on him. But soon he noticed something. The wound on his waist was just a little more severe than a superficial injury. But now, that peculiar tingling sensation had already begun to spread throughout his body. The potency and speed of this toxin were indeed astonishing, which reminded Carmela of the name that Gaz had mentioned earlier. Silver Dragon Lord. He had heard of this title. If he remembered correctly, it should refer to a silver dragon that had recently gained fame residing in Nolan Forest. But he had never heard that this silver dragon was also a terrifying venomous dragon. Gaz the Goblin watched the events unfolding on the city walls and below with great interest. Then he turned to Camilla and said thoughtfully, I believe you understand by now that you have no chance of victory. Perhaps I should be more specific. This not only refers to this small border city but also the entire Felcord Empire. You seem to have some talent. The great Silver Dragon Lord is very merciful. As long as you offer your complete loyalty to him, I believe you will have a place in the land of the Soaring Dragon. A goblin trying to persuade him to surrender? Camilla laughed mockingly, but this time he was mocking himself. Want my loyalty? Camilla held his sword and sneered, It's simple. Just exchange it for the ugly head of that silver dragon. You're asking for death. Gaz's face turned furious. Camilla's words meant that he had severed his own path of retreat. Now, Gaz wouldn't give Camilla any chance. Even though he was a legendary swordsman, with his current condition, Camilla couldn't possibly be Gaz's opponent. Understanding this deeply, Gaz crouched slightly, and the pair of dragon wings on his back began to flap rapidly. With a sudden burst of energy, he stomped the hard city wall bricks into a deep pit, while Gaz himself charged at Camilla like lightning with his long blade in hand. Gaz didn't hold back this time. This attack aimed directly at Camilla's vital points. However, to Gaz's surprise, Camilla, who looked like he was on his last legs, had suddenly burst forth with astounding strength. Camilla had accurately deflected the strike, which should have been decisive. Then, the two engaged in a rapid close-quarters battle, the sound of clashing metal and sparks flying. After a while, both sides retreated, injured, to adjust their positions. At this point, Gaz looked at Camilla with a serious expression. ignoring his own injuries as they were merely superficial. Slowly, Gaz's gaze shifted to his long blade, which had numerous notches from following him through countless battlefields. It seemed that Camella's elegant sword was not ordinary. If Gaz's blade had been a regular long blade, it would have been broken by now. However, what Gaz was more curious and concerned about was how Duke Camella could still be so powerful at this moment. Gaz squinted at Duke Camella and quickly noticed some crimson mist seeping out from the battlefield and drifting towards Camella. This mist looked similar to the Berserker's technique but was absolutely different. The mist greatly enhanced Duke Camella's strength and seemed to alleviate the impact of the poison on him as much as possible. The source of this mist was the gruesomely mangled corpses. As the mist strengthened Duke Camella, it also imperceptibly exerted immense pressure on Gaz. Despite the additional injuries, the corner of Carmella's mouth was slightly upturned. He looked at Gaz, his expression longing. The god of war will look after his faithful servants. Perhaps Mel City is doomed, but you must pay a price for it. This price would inevitably include the life of this goblin. The fall of Mel City was inevitable, and all Camella could do now was try to relieve the Empire's pressure as much as possible. For example, by taking down this troublesome goblin and then killing as many monsters as possible. Camella's chest heaved up and down, and at this point, his previous elegance was completely gone. In order to maintain his current state, his heart was on the verge of collapse. While the mist enhanced his strength, it also became a burden on him. It wouldn't be long before it disintegrated him and left no trace behind. Therefore he had to fight quickly. Large amounts of mist wrapped around Camella like red ribbons, while his muscles swelled up like balloons. The magnificent armor he wore soon reached its limit and exploded outward like an overinflated tin can. Gaz stood across from Camella, frowning at him. His opponent was now swollen like a lump of flesh, looking incredibly ugly but also giving off an intense pressure. Gaz swallowed with difficulty. Camella was a veteran swordsman with unfathomable strength. At first, he had only gained the upper hand by cunningly using poison. But now that Camella had reacted like this, his pressure increased greatly. However, Gaz soon relaxed, even sneering and gesturing at Camella with a hooked finger. Camella was shocked at first, then rage clouded his mind at the sight of the goblin. The mockery was highly effective. "They'll cut you into pieces." Wielding his sword, Camella swung a few flourishes and prepared to charge forward to put an end to this damned goblin. But before he took a few steps forward, he saw Gaz inexplicably tilt his head to one side, and a delicate, lightning-charged lance grazed his scalp and embedded itself in the wall behind him. From this angle, witnessing this, Camella sensed that something was wrong. When he looked down, he saw that a hole the size of a frying pan had been blasted through his chest. And behind him, Angelina, who had just performed a righteous backstab, nodded at Gaz in acknowledgement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1187. Solution. The housekeeper cast a worried look at the Crown Prince, but he quickly suppressed his emotions. He felt concerned about Zhao Yunduan's young age, fearing he might jeopardize the plan. The stakes were high. If something went wrong, hundreds of lives would be lost. The fourth prince's reputation for ruthlessness didn't help matters. The housekeeper was convinced that the fourth prince was behind the potential disaster. However, the crown prince couldn't entrust this task to someone else for fear of the news leaking out. Zhao Yunduan had proven to be the most reliable among them. If Zhao Yunduan succeeded, he would earn the admiration and respect of his colleagues and friends, leading to a significant promotion. The housekeeper doubted the Grand Tutor's judgment and believed that Zhao Yunduan needed to be thoroughly understood. Zhao Yunduan nodded solemnly, fully understanding the gravity of the situation. From the moment the Crown Prince entrusted the men to Zhao Yunduan, the plan had been set in motion discreetly. The dam project, which could cause a disastrous flood in the village, was an extensive endeavor. Removing this hidden threat without arousing suspicion from the other party was no easy feat. Releasing the flood slowly was not an option, as it would undoubtedly lead to leaks. The fourth prince's influence was formidable, and if he got wind of the crown prince's knowledge about the plan, he would stop at nothing to ensure its success, possibly even resorting to aggressive actions. The crown prince knew that his reputation was merely the tip of the iceberg, and he couldn't afford any more trouble. It was crucial to handle the situation meticulously. In light of the circumstances, they needed to find a way to protect the civilians from the flood's impact, ensuring no harm would come to them. Zhao Yunduan took charge of the preparations, working tirelessly to avoid any disruptions. They even detained a few individuals to prevent any potential leaks, displaying utmost vigilance. After 2 days and nights of hard work, the water level finally receded, bringing relief to everyone involved. At this critical juncture, Zhao Yunduan made the decision to release some water in front of the dam. With the county magistrate of Miyun County leaning towards the fourth prince, they suspected he might have noticed something. Therefore, they chose not to keep the secret hidden any longer, understanding that the more water they released, the safer they would be. Time was of the essence. The guards were stationed strategically, leaving no room for interference. With the situation under control, the crown prince's men apprehended the county magistrate of Miyun County. The magnitude of such a significant project demanded diligence, and his ignorance of the situation was deemed a dereliction of duty. But he was not sure if that was true. Maybe he was the one who covered up for the fourth prince. County magistrate of Miyun County was prepared to lose his position. He left the capital without defending himself and soon disappeared. Zhao Yunduan made the arrangements and ordered his men to divert the river before heading back to the capital. The fourth prince was so annoyed. The dam could not be kept secret for too long. He had planned to give the crown prince a huge present before the new year, and coincidentally, there was a fire at the crown prince's mansion on the night of lightning, which could be used to seize on and make an issue of something. If these two things happened one after another, it would be a huge blow to the crown prince's reputation. He had never liked this man who pretended to be virtuous. He had always wanted to ruin his reputation. This was definitely a great opportunity. But before he could do anything, the dam that he had worked so hard to build was broken. All of their previous plans were ruined. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 382, returning to Blue Star _1. Just as Suyu was dealing with Secretary Hutton, Morningstar unleashed a starry breath that squarely blasted into the crowd of reporters below the podium. These screw journalists, mostly with only second or third level power, were unable to resist and disintegrated immediately in the blast. Suyu gave Morningstar an appreciative look and then turned his attention to Secretary of State Les, intending to take advantage of the situation to get rid of him as well. Just then, a colossal golden eye sprang open atop the tallest skyscraper in Trina, known as the Trina skyscraper. Nemesis danger. Without a second thought, Morningstar utilized a teleportation technique called Flicker, putting himself directly in line with Suyu and the towering skyscraper. Buzz. The Trina skyscraper launched a green disintegration beam that directly hit Morningstar, turning his massive dragon form into a scatter of particles. After killing Morningstar, the destructive beam carried on to Suyu behind, causing devastating damage. He felt his skin and body to the right side start to disintegrate, completely losing sensation. Suyu didn't dare to linger and hurriedly activated the green pendant on his chest. Before him a gate to the stars gaped open. He leapt, vanishing into the sky. Beep boop beep boop. After Suyu left, alarm sirens blared throughout Trina, the city lighting up with the flashing red light of the warning system. The surviving Secretary of State Les sat amidst a pool of blood and unrecognizable debris, staring blankly at the devastation before him. The Chairman Cass and Vice Chairman Gordon had suffered horrific deaths, and the reporters below the stage had been reduced to nothingness with a single breath of Morningstar. Apart from Les himself, there were almost no other survivors. Moreover, the assailant was the very elusive number 1 they had been discussing capturing the previous night. How did number 1's strength suddenly become so formidable? Even a 7th grade legendary powerhouse shouldn't have been able to kill the chairman without breaking a sweat, right? And the timing that number 1 chose was too perfect. It was the moment their high-level powerhouses had left, and their internal defense was at its weakest. The Luan-Keat alliance, no, the whole of Screw Star, may be on the verge of a shakeup. Meanwhile, underneath the villa of Dana in the imperial capital of Huaxia Nation, Blue Star. Boom. Su Yu hit the ground hard. His blood spurted out thickly, splattering across half of the underground chamber, causing him to pass out. Thank goodness, one of them finally made it back. Xue Wenli, on duty outside the basement, breathed a sigh of relief. She had been waiting here for 3 days, for the return of the 3 heroes to the Blue Star. However, nearly 2.5 days had passed since the space tunnel opened, and with less than half a day left to closure, no one had returned, sinking her heart. Had all 3 of them sacrificed themselves at Screw Star? Now that she heard a thud from the basement, her mood finally lightened up. Someone returning was always good news. Xue Wenli walked towards the basement window to peek inside. The sight inside petrified her. Blood. It was all blood. The person lying unconscious on the floor was Su Yu. His right side and back were a bloody mess, unrecognizable from their original form. Su Yu's blood was flowing non-stop, forming a small stream on the floor of the basement, eventually morphing into a pond. The sight frightened Xue Wenli. Without wasting time, she hurriedly ran upstairs in her high heels towards Dana's bedroom. A dozen or so minutes later, a sleepy Dana begrudgingly descended the stairs into the basement. Hardly get a good night's sleep, and I was just falling asleep when you woke me up, Dana grumbled as she walked. I'm sorry, Miss Dana. Xue Wenli quickly responded with a smile. Su Yu is severely injured. I was afraid his life would be in danger if you were too late. Fine, I won't hold it against you, for the sake of my adorable junior, Dana waved meaninglessly. By this time, both of them had arrived at the entrance of the basement. Dana looked at Xue Wenli. Stay at the door and don't move or step inside. The spilled magical energy might kill you directly. Do you understand? Understood. Xue Wenli replied promptly. Being an ordinary human, she wouldn't dare risk herself. But she didn't waste time. She promptly sent a message to notify Zhong Feng and Commissioner Zhang to rush over. Okay, Dana nodded and opened the door to enter the basement. Upon entering, Dana glanced at Su Yu, almost a pile of mush on the ground, completely expressionless. Tisk, tisk, injured like this by a minor level 1 civilization, it seems that this junior fellow is not very skilled. Dana shook her head, knelt down, and unbuttoned Su Yu's clothes to examine his injuries. However, after examining Su Yu's wounds with her mind, her expression changed to surprise. Disintegration beam? It's a wound caused by the disintegration beam? It seems that the junior has done a remarkable thing. Disintegration beam originates from the divine technique, grand disintegration, a superpower that only planet-level beings can control. Over 200 years ago, when the Holy Silver Federation first discovered Screw Star, the disintegration beam, as part of a technological aid project, was gifted by the Holy Silver Federation to the people of the Screw Star, making it one of their most important technologies. It was surprising that Su Yu was hurt by this. Feta 6 Akahachi. Dana whispered. A divine light beam fell from the sky directly onto her. Dana extended an arm, and a substantial divine power started to gather in her palm. After it gathered to a certain point, she pressed down, injecting the pure divine light into Su Yu's body. Su Yu gave a groan that could be of pain or relief. His mangled back and right half was enveloped by the divine force, his wounds slowly healing. After seeing that Su Yu was now out of danger, Dana clapped her hands and left the basement without looking back. Seeing Dana exit, Xue Wenli quickly met her outside. Miss Dana, how is Su Yu? Is his life in danger? Dana glanced at Xue Wenli and calmly said, Don't worry. He won't die. You wait at the door. In about 2 hours, he will come out of the basement by himself. After saying that, Dana yawned. I'm going back to sleep. Don't bother me unless it's urgent. After that, Donna walked towards the stairs. Okay, Shui Wenli peeked through the basement window, hoping to see how Su Yu was doing. However, not long after Donna had left, she suddenly came back, her eyes set on Shui Wenli. Miss Donna, is something wrong? Shui Wenli felt uneasy under Donna's gaze. I'm missing a pillow for sleep, Donna was blunt. Why don't I buy you one then? What kind do you want? No need, you can be my pillow. Donna picked Shui Wenli up by her waist and carried her towards her own bedroom. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1189. Snow. In the winter, staying warm was of paramount importance. Therefore, she purchased a plethora of thick clothes, shoes, socks, quilts, firewood, charcoal, and other necessities, ensuring her stockpile was well supplied. As the 12th lunar month approached, the capital brimmed with increasing festivity for the upcoming New Year celebrations. Being newcomers from the countryside, both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were enthralled by the city's unique charm and financial prosperity. Money was not an issue, and they indulged in buying various New Year goods, unintentionally amassing a considerable collection. Meanwhile, Li Xia and Li Qiu busied themselves by making numerous meatballs and marinating some smoked meat for the festivities. As evening approached, dark clouds gathered ominously, hinting at an impending heavy snowfall. Seasoned elders, well-versed in such signs, predicted the snowstorm. Qiao Xian, with her extraordinary senses, could already detect the imminent snow in the air. The flakes were ready to descend. True to their predictions, as the evening mist descended and the sky turned misty, the snowflakes silently began their descent, gently swirling in the air. Soon, they started to accumulate on the ground. By nightfall, a thick layer of snow covered the landscape. The courtyard's flowers and trees were cloaked in a white blanket, displaying soft undulating contours. The following morning, the window revealed a bright and clear view. Stepping outside, the crisp air greeted them, invigorating their senses. Though it was chilly, the sky seemed to exude a unique radiance, illuminated by the fresh snow. The air, now sanctified by the snowfall, brought an indescribable sense of novelty and wonder, even to the otherwise ordinary surroundings. The scenery was breathtaking, with the snow having ceased and the bright sun casting a crystal-clear, snow-white glow over everything. Outside the yard, the laughter of children from different families in the alley echoed joyously, reveling in the snowy fun. On their day off, Xiao Yunduan was at home, and Qiao Xian entered the room with a smile. What a beautiful day! Let's venture outside of town and enjoy the snow. If we're lucky, we might even catch some wild roosters and rabbits. It's just after a heavy snowfall, and the wild roosters and rabbits will be less agile, getting stuck in the snow. They'll move slower due to the cold, making them easier to catch. Let's go and try our luck. Qiao Xian's eyes sparkled with excitement and anticipation. Xiao Yunduan couldn't resist her enthusiasm and agreed, despite wanting to stay home with his wife in this weather to enjoy a nice meal together. All right, let's prepare and head out. The earlier we leave, the sooner we can return. Winter days grow dark early, and it gets much colder after noon. Okay. Songshi went to rent a wagon, and Li Xia and Li Qiu had already prepared breakfast and readied the essentials, including fur cloaks, moccasins, a hand-burning stove, charcoal basin, and everything needed to stay warm. They quickly finished breakfast and set off. Li Xia and Li Qiu stayed back to take care of the house, while Songshi drove the wagon with the couple on board. Before leaving, Qiao Xian asked Li Qiu and Li Xia to prepare the pot and various dishes for a hot pot dinner. During the 12th lunar month, various types of meat were available, with fat mutton and beef cut into thin slices, ideal for the hot pot. The couple happily nodded in agreement. Apart from beef and mutton, they also had ribs, fish balls, meatballs, vegetarian balls, pig's blood, vermicelli, winter melon slices, lotus root slices, taro slices, cabbage, tofu, and yuba. They had also made some egg dumplings and bought haggis. Additionally, they had fresh pea sprouts and soybean sprouts at home. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1190. Her Superpower. The pot's bottom was divided into a two-taste duck pot, with one side spicy and the other mild. The non-spicy side contained wild mushrooms, half a chicken, half a tube of bones, and a dash of wolfberry and 2 dates. The resulting thick and milky white soup served as the delectable base for the hot pot. Qiao Xian and Zhao Yunduan set off together, with Songshi having rented the finest wagon for them. The wagon was well insulated and covered with a thick carpet. In one corner, a stove with a cover was cleverly fixed, emanating a warm glow from the burning red coals. Their destination was Pinggu, an area with advanced mountains and dense forests, offering picturesque scenery and abundant prey. The official road was bustling with activity during this time of the year. Moreover, the suburban road, being under supervision, remained easily passable despite the snowfall. The wagon was nimble and the horse swift, swiftly carrying them away from the capital. Gradually, the number of pedestrians decreased, and they found themselves surrounded by snow-white mountains and verdant trees, creating a beautiful and serene landscape. Qiao Xian frequently lifted the curtain to admire the scenery outside, lavishing praise on the breathtaking sights. Zhao Yunduan had never witnessed such a breathtaking scene before, leaving him utterly fascinated by it. After approximately half an hour, the couple asked Songshi to stop the wagon, and they disembarked to venture into the nearby mountains, leaving him behind to tend to the coals and keep warm inside. Songshi didn't dare to follow and simply nodded with a smile as he watched them go before retreating into the cozy wagon. Indeed, the wagon provided ample warmth. Even with a hand stove in his arms and donning fur clothing and a hat, he still felt a slight chill after the prolonged journey in the snow. Resting in the wagon was a welcome respite. With no other pedestrians in the mountains during such weather, the couple aided each other as they trekked onward. Qiao Xian's excitement and delight rendered her impervious to the cold, thoroughly enjoying the enchanting scenery up close. Amid the heavy snowfall, the world transformed into a dreamlike and exquisite spectacle. So enamored with the picturesque views, they nearly reached the middle of the mountain. Qiao Xian's deerskin boots and cloak proved indispensable in tolerating the cold. Using her superpower, Qiao Xian searched for any wild roosters or rabbits shivering in the cold. Catching them amidst the snow was a straightforward task. Guided by her abilities, they successfully captured 3 wild rabbits and 5 wild roosters, a bountiful harvest. Fantastic! Tonight we'll have an abundant feast. Qiao Xian's face lit up with a bright smile as she held the wild rooster in her hands. Zhao Yunduan was genuinely surprised, and he couldn't help but smile too. Those roosters and rabbits are truly clueless. How did they end up like this? Qiao Xian playfully blinked and replied with a grin, "Indeed, we got lucky." However, she knew that it wasn't merely luck at play. Her superpower was more than just a display. If the roosters and rabbits had tried to escape, she could have easily used her abilities to ensnare them with long vines or grass leaves, making escape impossible. Of course, they had no choice but to wait obediently. The heavy snowfall provided her with the perfect opportunity to use her powers. Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't dare to employ such tactics on regular roosters and rabbits, as they wouldn't be caught in the vines and grass for no reason. So, it was her powers that led her to discover them in the first place. They were thrilled about the bountiful catch. Back when she was with them, wild animals were abundant, and they were accustomed to eating such delicacies. But now, such opportunities were rare and treasured. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1191. Farmers Cooking. Motivated by a sense of longing, Qiao Xian let out a sigh and whispered to Zhao Yunduan, "I can't help but miss Qi a little. I wonder how he's doing in the intermediate camp. It must be colder there than it is here." I wonder how much snow they've had this year and if he's keeping warm. Xiao Yunduan's heart skipped a beat. He cared deeply about his brother, too. Brushing away the snow on Xiao Xian's shoulders, Xiao Yunduan replied with a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Qi has always been skilled in archery since he was young, and I'm sure he's doing well. After the new year, I'll inquire about his well-being. Xiao Xian's face lit up with joy. That would be fantastic. Please don't forget to ask. Xiao Yunduan chuckled affectionately. Qi is my brother, how could I ever forget about him? It almost seemed as if Xiao Xian considered him as a sister-in-law rather than a brother. Xiao Xian smiled in response. I'm planning to go back next spring. Please make sure to send me any updates before that. I want to bring back the news and share it with Mom and the rest of the family. You have no idea how much Mom misses Qi, but she's hesitant to ask me directly. I can sense her concern. She's worried you might be troubled if she brings it up. Xiao Yunduan nodded with a smile. No worries. As the mountain breeze blew, snow gently fell from the branches, creating a mist of snow in the air. Xiao Yunduan held Xiao Xian's hands and said, It's getting late, let's head back down the mountain. Xiao Xian surveyed their surroundings. They had explored enough and successfully hunted some wild animals. It was time to return home. Carrying their prey, the two of them made their way down the mountain. From a distance, Songshi spotted them and hurried over to take the wild roosters and rabbits from their hands. He exclaimed happily, Fifth Master and Fifth Madam, you're incredible. I never thought you could catch wild rabbits and roosters. Ha! Xiao Xian laughed. It was just a sudden snowfall that startled them. Let's not tell anyone about it. It would seem too unbelievable. We'll just say we bought them from the farmers. Yes, Fifth Madam. Hungry and eager to cook, Songshi drove the wagon to a nearby village. He knocked on a farmer's door and borrowed their space to prepare lunch. With roosters and rabbits on hand, the farmer's wife quickly killed and stewed them, turning them into a delicious meal. The generous portions meant they couldn't finish everything, so they shared a bowl with the farmer's wife's children. Living in the outskirts of the capital, the villagers enjoyed a relatively better life than those in the poorer counties, but meat was still a luxury. The farmer's 3 children were overjoyed, and their mother felt a bit embarrassed by their gratitude. Although she was paid 2 liang for the meal, the guest's generosity left her profusely thanking them. Cooked over large stoves and firewood, the dishes were simply delicious. With fresh ingredients, a touch of ginger and garlic, and some stewed roosters with radish, the roasted rabbits emanated an irresistible aroma. 2 large bowls of steaming hot and fragrant food were served, making Xiao Xian's mouth water with anticipation. It smells so good! Xiao Xian couldn't help but exclaim. Just as they were about to dig in, an unexpected guest arrived, catching them by surprise. It was a master accompanied by 2 servants who sought refuge and a warm meal during the intermediate snowstorm. The yard was relatively small, so Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan spotted them immediately as they entered. One of the servants smiled and asked the farmer's wife, Sister-in-law, we're exhausted from our journey, and we'd love to warm ourselves up with some food and drink at your place. Don't worry, we won't be freeloading. We're more than happy to pay for our meal. The aroma of the meat you're cooking is enticing. Could you please share some with us? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 468, 456 Bloody Battle at Black Rye City _1 Just a few days after Dudley appeared, the Eastern Empire stopped its offensive against the Western Empire entirely. The Eastern Empire's army and their allies chose to rest and recuperate in favorable conditions. Even though it was frustrating for the passionate warriors who wanted to prove themselves not to build a successful career in the vast territory of the Western Empire, no one dared to step across the line. That was because, not long ago, the Crimson Empress issued a death order to them, and the title of the Crimson Empress was not just for show. As long as one stayed for half a year, they could obtain whatever they wanted without any effort. No one would refuse such a deal. Moreover, the Crimson Empress didn't have to worry about Dudley conducting experiments, as his reputation alone was the best guarantee. After the Eastern Empire stopped its offensive, the Western Empire, at Dudley's request, withdrew all its border guards from the east and immediately sent them to the northeast battlefront. Facing the undefended southeast border of the Western Empire, even with Dudley's commitment, the Crimson Empress couldn't help but have some misgivings. However, she quickly put such thoughts aside. Because her master, the Gale swordsman, who was about to step into the semi-divine realm, told her clearly, if he were to confront Dudley head-on, he might not even be a match for him at all. Such terrifying power was more than enough for Dudley to personally enter her palace and behead her personally. Although the Crimson Empress could be considered a powerful legendary warrior, she was nothing compared to Dudley's power. Considering the risks involved, the Crimson Empress thought it was better to choose a more secure option. Under this mentality, a strange situation appeared on the border between the two empires. Though one side was completely undefended, with hardly any guards, the other side dared not make any rash moves. On the other hand, the pressure on the Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed army suddenly increased. Gaz had just led the Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed army to capture a new city after Mel City, one of the previously mentioned 4 towns. This town was called Black Rye City, named after the abundant harvest of black rye in the fertile land surrounding it. Gaz chose to attack this city primarily because the city's warehouses were filled with black rye, which could greatly alleviate the supply pressure on their end. During the siege, Gaz used some tricks to prevent the reinforcements from the other 3 towns from arriving and attacking them from both sides. In order to minimize the time it took to seize the city, Gaz chose to start the attack at night, having the kobold and burrowing worms dig a shallow tunnel. Following that, Mega Fatty and other ogre mages went through the tunnel to the thick and hard foundation of the city wall, then repeated their previous method to dissolve a large hole in the foundation. Through this hole, a large number of monsters entered the city, successfully capturing the town while many people were still asleep. To be honest, Gaz did a great job, and the Western Empire didn't have time to react to his onslaught. However, the city he had captured so quickly had now become a burden for them. After taking Black Rye City, the Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed army planned to rest there for a while and then find a way to deal with the other surrounding towns. But before they could move, the Western Empire's army had surrounded Black Rye City. All the forces near the Western Empire's border had been transferred, and with Dudley's presence, the nobles dared not maintain their private armies any longer. Now, almost the entire Western Empire's military force was concentrated here, and Gaz finally got a glimpse of the foundation of this veteran empire. Black Rye City was just a small border town, but now, the well-equipped Western Imperial people filled the area outside the city like a tide. Standing atop the not-so-high city wall, Gaz looked grimly at the endless crowd below, feeling overwhelmed. Although the monsters in the Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed people were much stronger than ordinary people, these advantages were useless in the face of the absolute numerical superiority of the Western Imperial forces. Luckily, on their side, there was still the floating city of Dawn Garden. Although there was no apparent connection between the Soaring Dragon Legion and the elves, Gaz couldn't afford to be too cautious in such a critical moment. He immediately called for a lizardman scout, who transformed into a giant eagle and disappeared into the sky after receiving Gaz's order. Soon after the giant eagle left, the Western Empire launched an attack on Black Rye City. Since the Western Empire had a large number of soldiers, but the city walls of Black Rye City were limited in size, only a limited number of people could mount the walls at the same time. The Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed army were marginally stronger than the Western Empire, so although the battle was fierce, the Western Empire could not breach Black Rye City in a short period. The ruthless and bloodthirsty monsters and the war-loving Veed people were not afraid of bloody battlefields or even death. Every time a monster or a Veed person died at the hands of the Western Empire's blades, another monster or Veed warrior would quickly replace them. However, there were just too many soldiers from the Western Empire, and they had also smashed through the gates of Black Rye City. By sunset, Black Rye City had finally fallen. With the Western Empire's relentless attacks, the Soaring Dragon Legion and the Veed army had lost more than half of their troops, and the remaining half were led by Gaz, desperately resisting within the Lord's castle. The castle's walls and gates were much weaker, and by the current situation, it wouldn't hold for long. If the defense line of the castle was broken, Gaz and his men would be completely exposed to the Western Empire's aggression. Gaz knew very well that if things really turned out that way, they wouldn't last long. With his strength, it was possible for him to find an opportunity and break through to escape, but he would never do it. Death was not frightening. What was terrifying was that his actions would disappoint the great Silver Dragon Lord. Amidst this complex mood, the castle gate was also broken. Countless Western Empire soldiers filled with vengeance rushed into the castle, swinging their swords with all their might. Is it really going to end? Gaz couldn't help but ask this question while standing at the top of the castle. However, he was unwilling to give up until the very end. Just as he was about to jump down from the high point and join the battle, a giant shadow appeared suddenly over Black Rye City. Gaz immediately looked up at the sky with joy, as Dawn Garden had finally arrived. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1193. Invitation. The young master appeared not to be eating seriously. As Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were preparing to leave, he put down his chopsticks and smiled at them. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan walked towards their wagon, but to their surprise, the young master caught up with them. Please hold on, I am Zhao Shu from Yangzhou, Jiangnan, and I would like to befriend Fifth Master. Can we be friends? He asked, revealing that he had heard about them from Songshi. Xiao Yunduan's expression turned serious as he calmly questioned, You know who we are, don't you? Are you here on purpose? Zhao Shu was unabashed and responded with an open smile. Yes, Officer Xiao, Madam Xiao, it's delightful to have a chance encounter in the snow and witness such a beautiful couple. Xiao Yunduan continued, What is it, young Master Zhao? Zhao Shu maintained his smile. This is not the right place for a conversation. How about we head into town and chat at a tea house? Please don't misunderstand me, I have no ulterior motives. I simply admire the couple and wish to befriend you. As for anything beyond that, I genuinely cannot say. He understood that if he couldn't befriend them, he had no right to ask for anything else. Qiao Xian displayed a half-smile. Fifth Master's reputation precedes him in the capital, so I'm not surprised that you admire him. But what makes you admire me? I'm quite curious. Zhao Shu appeared taken aback for a moment, then smiled, saying, Please don't hold it against me for what I said. I have inquired about you both, and I know that Fifth Madam Xiao is no ordinary lady. She possesses remarkable capabilities, and your properties in Yuzhong province are widely renowned. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan exchanged a meaningful look. They had suspected that Zhao Shu and his servant came to the farmer's home with them in mind. However, they were taken aback by the extent of Zhao Shu's investigation. He seemed to know more about them than even the Tian family, who usually paid little attention to the Yuezheng family and their affairs. The Tian family had always underestimated them, believing Xiao Yunduan came from a small village and had no significant connections. That level of knowledge was sufficient for them. They couldn't fathom how Zhao Shu could have gathered such detailed information. It seemed too meticulous and thorough for anyone to believe. Even a 3-year-old child would not believe that the man in front of him was so thorough in his investigation. You are so considerate. Xiao Yunduan's demeanor turned cold. Zhao Shu appeared remorseful and tried to explain. Fifth Master Xiao, I truly meant no harm. Fifth Madam inquired about these matters, and I merely answered her truthfully. I don't have any sinister intentions. Qiao Xian's smile remained, and she said, I believe that to be true. Even if you had ill intentions, my old master wouldn't be intimidated by you. Xiao Yunduan glanced at Qiao Xian with a helpless expression, as if knowing she was intentionally trying to tease Zhao Shu. Zhao Shu chuckled awkwardly in response, Of course, I never meant any harm. Fifth Master Xiao, Fifth Madam, why don't we head into town first? Suggested Zhao Shu, trying to steer the conversation away from any discomfort. Xiao Yunduan agreed with Qiao Xian's earlier sentiment, deciding that Zhao Shu didn't seem like a harmful person and thus lost interest in him. He saw no reason to waste any more time or energy on him. All right, let's go into town, Qiao Xian happily agreed. Zhao Shu was delighted by their response. Please follow me. Xiao Yunduan assisted Qiao Xian onto their wagon, and Songshi began to drive. Meanwhile, Zhao Shu climbed onto his own wagon and motioned for them to keep up as they made their way into town. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1949, Space Conference 1. Editor, Atlas Studios. Boom. 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 In the dream world, 11 was still pulling the head of the god of destruction, using its body to smash star after star and constantly pressing it to the planet to rub. If the god of destruction didn't want to be beaten up, sure you would satisfy it. Even if it was 11, it was more than enough to heavily injure the god of destruction who had yet to recover. Ugh. In the dream universe, no matter how strong the Black Panther's god of destruction was, it couldn't withstand 11, who was using the reverse Pangu evolution method. However, the closer it was to a desperate situation, the crazier this guy became. He counterattacked even more crazily, even if it was only one-sided. "I'm the god of destruction," it roared angrily. To Shiryu and the others' surprise, blood tears even flowed out of the corners of the god of destruction's eyes. It seemed to be venting its dissatisfaction and anger. No matter what your reasons are. Shiryu and the others looked at the Black Panther's god of destruction with burning gazes. That made sense. No matter who it was, how could they have an anti-cosmic personality? The god of destruction probably had its own reasons. But no matter what the reason was, since it threatened the safety of him and his companions, they could only completely eliminate the other party. Roar! The god of destruction attacked again. Shiryu held the spiritual sword in his hand, and the dream universe began the second round of violent turmoil. The starlight dimmed, and a drop of liquid condensed in the nebula. The universe seemed to be whimpering. Ever since Shiryu and the god of destruction started the battle, the scene of the universe seemed to have become much more desolate. After an unknown period of time, the dream universe shattered. Shiryu and the others were in the real universe again. When they saw Shiryu come out, Shiyu, who had been lingering here, immediately teleported over in surprise. She saw that Shiryu and the pets beside him were basically not injured. Moreover, there was no sign of the god of destruction. Shiyu said happily, "Dad, where's the god of destruction? Could it be he's dead?" Shiryu looked at the long sword in his hand and said, "I killed him." "Great, you're too strong." Shiyu looked over in surprise. She simply worshipped her father from this parallel universe too much. Although her wish was to surpass Shiryu, Shiryu had helped this universe solve such a huge disaster. She still hugged Shiryu happily. "Hey, hey, hey." Shiryu pushed his cosmic-level daughter away and smiled bitterly. "Don't be happy too early. Although the other party is dead, the trouble hasn't been resolved." "Huh? Don't tell me it can still be revived," Shiyu said in confusion. No, Shiryu's heart was extremely heavy. He was indeed prepared for it to revive infinitely, but Shiryu fell into deep thought and recalled his final confrontation with the god of destruction. Swoosh! The body of the god of destruction was divided into two by the spiritual sword in Shiryu's hand. At this moment, even its soul was quickly shattered by Qi Tong and obliterated into soul nutrients. Boom! The body of the god of destruction exploded, but before it died, its face was filled with mockery. "It'll die, but this universe will also be destroyed." After that, Qi Tong began to spirit release the other party's soul and extract the other party's memories. Shiryu looked at his daughter and said, "Do you know the true identity of the god of destruction?" "What? Isn't he a cosmic-level expert from the first era?" "Not only that." Shiryu smiled bitterly. He didn't expect this god of destruction to be so troublesome. "Actually, the universe isn't as simple as the 11th era," Shiryu said. It's the pet of the previous holder of the universe. According to the soul memory scene transmitted by Qi Tong, Shiyu saw a small black panther snuggling beside a majestic body. Shiyu? In a certain era, a human successfully contracted the universe and became the holder of the universe, the will of the universe. However, just because you become the holder of the universe doesn't mean that you can really be eternal. As the true cosmic will that has been suppressed, you won't be willing to be contracted by others forever. Even if the contract succeeds, the holder of the universe still has to constantly guard against the backlash of the universe. The previous holder of the universe broke free of the contract and died by the universe countless years after becoming the holder of the universe. That's already a story from before the first era. And the powerful power on the god of destruction was also given to it by its master. Now you know why the power on its body is so special, right? It can cross so many eras probably because of the maintenance master. What? Shiyu was shocked. No wonder the god of destruction hated the will of the universe so much and hoped to destroy the universe. So it was to avenge its master. Then what do you mean the matter isn't over? Shiyu sighed slightly and said, although the other party died, its resentment turned into a curse and fused into the universe. It used its own death as the price to curse something and let its life flow away with it. I'm fine. Seeing Shiyu's worried expression, Shiyu said, its cursed target is this universe. Oh! Shiyu had been shocked for a long time. When she heard Shiryu's words, she cried again and sensed the state of the universe. If nothing goes wrong, your parallel universe won't be able to live for long. Moreover, even if the universe wants to restart, it probably won't go smoothly. We need to guard against the resentment of the dead god of destruction. I didn't expect it to do this time. Shiryu was silent. From the start, the cosmic god of destruction didn't want to live. It wanted to perish with the universe. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1195. Plan. Qiao Xian firmly decided to keep her distance from them, as she would never involve herself with such people. However, considering Xiao Yunduan's affiliation with the Crown Prince's gang and the need to adhere to Emperor Xian's stance, she realized that she couldn't remain idle. Perhaps, despite the odds, the Crown Prince could persevere until the end. Determined not to be passive observers, they had to be proactive in their endeavors. Qiao Xian saw this as an opportunity to make a substantial amount of money, which might prove useful in the future. With the support of the East Palace, they had some protection, regardless of the size of their properties. Although Qiao Xian initially planned to consider her options after the new year, she knew that if she failed to find suitable collaborators, she might have to venture into the business herself. The only setback was the lack of manpower and connections, making it more convenient to collaborate with others. As the wife of an officer, there were certain limitations to what Qiao Xian could personally undertake. Thus, finding reliable partners was crucial. However, she held little hope of discovering collaborators similar to the Yuezheng family, as such opportunities were scarce and challenging to come by. In fact, that was almost impossible. Especially in a place like the capital, where people from all walks of life mingled, materialism prevailed, and the nobility held influence. Most businessmen were driven by greed, sycophantic, lacking integrity, cunning, and solely focused on profits. Collaborating with such individuals meant being constantly vigilant for potential counterattacks. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan fully understood the risks involved, and they were prepared to face any challenges that might arise. However, their plans took an unexpected turn when Zhao Shu unexpectedly approached them. These two aspects particularly pleased Qiao Xian. Money was not a concern for the intermediate school. Of course, they needed to ascertain the details of Zhao Shu's proposal and figure out the underlying motivations. Without giving an immediate response, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan decided to hold off on making a commitment until after the new year. They needed time to carefully consider the implications and weigh the pros and cons before making a decision. Zhao Shu felt reassured and content with their response, as he saw a glimmer of hope in their consideration. After a while, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan returned home, bringing along a few roosters and rabbits, much to the delight of Li Xia and Li Qiu. It turned out they weren't the only ones craving wild animals. The servants were equally eager for the treat. Considering the weather, the roosters and rabbits could be kept fresh for several days without spoiling. However, the sudden cooing of a hen startled them. Did Fifth Master and Fifth Madam also get this from the mountains? Li Xia inquired. Amused, Qiao Xian chuckled. Are you two going crazy? You can't catch chickens in the mountains. And even if you manage to catch some, it's not stealing. The couple joined in the laughter too. That was right. Fifth Madam must have purchased them, and that was why she brought them to the backyard and secured them. Feeling more at ease after changing her clothes and settling down on the warm Kong bed with a cup of hot tea, Qiao Xian relished the sense of relaxation and laziness. After contemplating for a moment, she turned to Xiao Yunduan with a smile and inquired, "What do you think of Zhao Shu?" "I'm not sure," Xiao Yunduan replied, displaying increased caution and prudence. He was not one to hastily form conclusions unless he had solid evidence, and he did not wish to let his initial impression cloud his judgment. As for Zhao Shu's words, Xiao Yunduan found them perplexing, leaving him in a state of confusion. "He'll look into his background, and once we have a clearer understanding of him, we can discuss this further, all right?" he suggested. Qiao Xian agreed without any objections, nodding with a smile. Of course, though he doesn't seem to be lying, appearances can be deceiving in the capital. Not many can be trusted solely based on their outward demeanor. If he thought he could play games here like he would in a small town, he was in for a rude awakening. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1196. Good. Xiao Yunduan smiled. "Darling, do you want to collaborate with him?" Qiao Xian pondered for a moment and replied with a smile. "We need money. The crown prince doesn't have much money, right? But he requires resources like the other princes." Qiao Xian had nothing to worry about as long as they were on the same side. Xiao Yunduan nodded in agreement. True. Everyone's attention was fixed on the crown prince, aware that he wouldn't easily gain any financial support. If they did provide him with financial aid, it might lead to competition among the people for profits, and ultimately lead to impeachment. More importantly, they couldn't decipher their true intentions. What was the purpose of amassing such wealth? To win over people's loyalty? But what was the true value of buying people's loyalty? There was no way to offer a clear explanation. Even if an explanation were given, the emperor would likely be uneasy about it. If this happened too frequently, it might alter the dynamics significantly. They had to remain untouched and avoid any entanglements. However, most of the ministers surrounding the crown prince were scholars, unsuited for business ventures or any other practical matters. Xiao Yunduan was unique in his approach. Despite being a scholar, he was still young, and people didn't have a strong impression of him yet. Therefore, he was not easily disheartened. Unlike other elderly scholars, if they were involved, it would disappoint the common folks and low-ranking officials. However, with Qiao Xian, Xiao Yunduan's wife, in the mix, things would be different. Her involvement changed the dynamics. Xiao Yunduan never intended to be a pure Confucianist, and fortunately, his wife shared the same view. The crown prince cannot be directly associated with these matters, but if we take action, he will undoubtedly defend us. But I must apologize, my love. Qiao Xian smiled reassuringly. We are in this together, and it's good that you acknowledge your contributions. If he ever succeeds, I would like to experience what it's like to be the wife of a high-ranking official. Xiao Yunduan felt a sense of relief and responded with a smile. If he truly uses our resources, I will certainly grant you the title of a first-class wife. That is good. They exchanged smiles, fully aware that obtaining a first-class title was no easy feat. It held the highest honor a courtier could achieve, and Qiao Xian believed it would be worth spending more money to attain such an exceptional status. This honor couldn't be simply bought with money. it held a significance beyond material wealth. In any case, Xiao Xian had nothing to lose. She possessed ingenuity and skills, while her collaborators could handle the practical aspects. Although they were not yet official collaborators, they were confident they could find the right person for the job. As they discussed the investigation of Zhao Shu, the excitement in Zhao Shu's heart was palpable. Upon returning home, he instructed his trusted housekeeper, Uncle Qing, to prepare a substantial New Year present. Previously, he hesitated to offer gifts, unsure of their relationship. However, now that they were friends, he felt at ease, even if the collaboration didn't pan out. He still wanted to show his kindness with presents. Make sure the gifts are ready within a couple of days and deliver them to Officer Xiao's residence. Include as many valuable items as possible. Money is of utmost importance to me right now. Uncle Qing was delighted to hear about Zhao Shu's connection with Officer Xiao. He nodded with a beaming smile, happy for his master's newfound friendship. Feeling a sense of urgency, Zhao Shu wasted no time and personally made all the necessary preparations. However, Uncle Qing felt it necessary to offer a gentle reminder. Young master, Madame Xiao has not committed to anything yet, and there's a chance they may not accept such extravagant gifts. How about considering a simple token of appreciation instead? You can always make up for it in the future. Chapter 1197. Fitting. Zhao Shu's realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. A grin spread across his face as he said, "You're absolutely right, Uncle Qing. Let's go ahead with the plan." Aunt Qing, though unaware of the exact details, watched them with amusement as she busied herself with the household chores. Little did she know that her husband and young master had a hidden agenda, to seek revenge on the old master and his associate. Despite the abundance of nobles and high-ranking officials in the capital, they chose to ally with a seemingly low-ranking officer, Officer Xiao. Aunt Qing couldn't fathom what they saw in him, given his lack of background or power. Confused and skeptical, she found it hard to grasp the situation. Nevertheless, she trusted her husband and young master implicitly, believing they wouldn't make any mistakes. Their excitement over this collaboration was infectious, and Aunt Qing couldn't help but share in their happiness. Unbeknownst to her, Uncle Qing and Zhao Shu had dispatched individuals to investigate Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian in Yuzhang and Heshan County, respectively. Their faith in the capabilities and character of these two individuals was unwavering, leading them to choose them as allies over anyone else. While Aunt Qing remained in the dark about the specifics, she had no doubt that her husband and young master were making a well-informed decision that would ultimately serve their purpose. And that alone was enough for her to be content and supportive of their actions. In the bustling capital, influential figures abounded, but their disdain for businessmen was evident as they viewed them as mere sources of wealth. Should anyone seek their assistance, exorbitant payments, at least tenfold if not more, would be expected. Working alongside these influential figures spelled doom sooner or later. Yet, Officer Xiao and Madame Xiao stood apart from the rest. Officer Xiao's connections with the East Palace elevated his status significantly, making him far superior to his peers. Recognizing this advantage, Xiao Yunduan approached the Crown Prince, urging him to investigate the young master of the Zhao family in Yangzhou, an exceedingly wealthy clan. Though the Crown Prince seemed disinterested in the matter, he willingly obliged Xiao Yunduan, happy to be of help and appreciative of Xiao Yunduan's trust in seeking his aid. That was what a real family was like. As they delved into their investigation, a delivery of presents from Zhao Shu arrived. Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing took it upon themselves to personally bring the gifts to the Zhao family. Although the items might not have been particularly valuable to the Zhao family, they were immensely grateful for the gesture. The presents included an assortment of provisions: lambs, 2 pairs of live chickens, 2 pairs of live ducks, a pair of well-processed geese, a pair of hams, and a delightful selection of snacks, candies, and candied fruits. However, the most remarkable and rare offering was a small basket filled with fresh vegetables like garlic sprouts, celery, coriander, small vegetables, lettuce, and more. In addition to cabbages and radishes, they also received green onions, winter melons, old pumpkins, lotus roots, yams, taros, and other fresh vegetables from distant regions. To the recipients, such fresh produce was an incredible luxury. The Zhao family couldn't afford these delicacies, and even if they wanted to purchase them, they were likely unavailable in the local markets. Only the wealthiest families could afford greenhouses to cultivate such fresh vegetables, leaving everyone else unable to indulge in such treats. Qiao Xian's eyes lit up with delight at the sight of the fresh green vegetables. She couldn't contain her happiness as she knew how valuable and precious these items were. Even though she had access to fresh vegetables in her own space, it was unfortunate that she couldn't take them out to enjoy, leaving her cravings unsatisfied. Qiao Xian had the remarkable ability to retrieve items from her own space, seamlessly blending them with the presents from Zhao Shu. Fortunately, Xiao Yunduan seemed indifferent to this fact, and her maids, Li Xia and Li Qiu, remained oblivious to her unique talent. However, had Zhao Shu's presents consisted of treasure or jewelry, Qiao Xian would have politely declined them. Chapter 1198 Presents. Their relationship was strained, preventing them from appreciating valuable gifts. Valuable presents held intricate meanings beyond mere social gestures. Nevertheless, during the new year, he presented them with food, pouring considerable effort into the gesture, though its value wasn't substantial. Qiao Xian graciously accepted the money, bestowing thick red envelopes upon Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing. As an officer, Xiao Yunduan had the privilege of reciprocating the gifts. These 2 red envelopes encompassed nearly 2/3 of their offerings, signifying a certain distance between them, with no one taking undue advantage. Still, I acknowledged your kindness for the time being. Zhao Shu inquired and deciphered her intention. Though somewhat disheartened, Madame Xiao's acceptance indicated a glimmer of hope. He resolved not to persist any further, lest he become bothersome. At most, they might request Aunt Qing to perform a ceremonial kowtow on the New Year's first day. With the New Year approaching, the Crown Prince planned to reward them. Given Xiao Yunduan's substantial contribution and Minister Old Yun's kinship, the Crown Prince held them in high regard, leading to a notably generous reward. Beyond an array of confections, tea leaves, and palace-crafted meat dishes, the bounty included several calligraphy pieces, paintings, and antiques. Qiao Xian was also honored by Princess Consort with 2 lengths of brocade, 2 pieces of fine leather, a pair of purses adorned with jade pendants, golden bracelets, golden hairpins, and cloud brocade handkerchiefs. The gestures were lavish. However, it was evident that the East Palace's financial liquidity was limited. Non-monetary items predominated. Following the East Palace's New Year offerings, colleagues started visiting one after another. Furthermore, Qiao Xian had plans to prepare presents for her family. Returning these gifts wasn't a straightforward task. Offering presents carried great significance and served as tokens of appreciation. Simultaneously, they had to be tailored appropriately to avoid offense and respect taboos. Particularly in this instance, Qiao Xian had invested considerable effort, despite her lack of prior experience. While Xiao Yunduan intended to consult the manager of the Crown Prince's mansion on this matter, Qiao Xian firmly rejected the idea. Allowing such a consultation might project an image of incompetence and inadequacy. This demonstrated her competence and perhaps even caught Princess Consort's attention. If she appeared ineffectual, solely resorting to flattery and jealousy, the Crown Prince might deem her unsuitable for Xiao Yunduan, potentially leading to unfavorable consequences. Suffering those outcomes wouldn't be worthwhile. Her aspiration was to become a distinguished madam. At that juncture, she would wield influence and affluence. She might even persuade Xiao Yunduan to retire from the court, leaving behind a timeless legacy. That way, her life would attain perfection. How rare were such perfected lives in the world? Qiao Xian hadn't foreseen that Madame Lin from Hanlin Academy was also bestowing gifts. Madame Lin had schemed against her in the past, causing a sense of guilt within him. Thus, he attempted to curry favor with her, seemingly fearing potential retaliation. For Qiao Xian, Such trivial matters held no place in her current priorities. The events at Hanlin Academy seemed distant, and the actions of those madams no longer impacted her life. Even if someone harbored ill intentions, they wouldn't find an opportunity to execute them. Maintaining her reputation was of no concern. Chapter 1199. New Year's Eve. However, that wasn't true forgiveness. They weren't on the path to becoming friends again, but more like choosing to let it go. Xiao Xian understood the implication behind Madame Lin's words. She listened with a polite smile, though her growing unease became apparent as she fidgeted in her seat. Only then did she offer a few comforting words. Madame Lin visibly relaxed. She seized the moment to extend her hand in friendship once more, but Xiao Xian didn't engage further in the conversation. Eventually, Xiao Xian apologized, leading to Madame Lin feeling so embarrassed that she excused herself and left. Xiao Xian had no tolerance for such pretentious behavior. Except for those who were either clueless or overly self-absorbed, no one would dare to associate with such an individual. Before they knew it, New Year's Eve arrived. Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian welcomed the new year in each other's company. Having been married for quite some time, the festive spirit in their household only drew them closer. While others were surrounded by extended families, in that moment, they had only each other. Despite their modest number, the atmosphere was anything but dull. Couplets adorned the door, protective deities stood guard, decorative blossoms graced the windows, and 2 strands of vibrant red lanterns, personally chosen by Xiao Xian, hung beneath the eaves. The 29th day brought a blanket of snow, and a jovial snowman emerged in the yard, its grin radiating cheer. The scene was brimming with life. New Year's dishes had been procured a few days prior, and fresh greens were a rarity during this season. Winter melons, radishes, and cabbages filled the pantry. At the crack of dawn, vendors rolled in with their carts, wooden buckets brimming with fish for sale. Li Qiu joined the neighborhood crowd and managed to acquire a lively carp. Every dish was now prepared for the approaching new year. The chilly weather prompted them to opt for a steaming hot pot dinner. A lavish spread encompassing nearly 20 varieties of meats and vegetables was laid out before them, encompassing beef, lamb, pork, chicken, fresh river catch, rehydrated dried seafood, and an assortment of bean products. As for the sizable carp Li Qiu had acquired, it was coated with flour and sizzled in the pan until it turned golden, then presented on a platter as a centerpiece. While such a dish was customary for the new year, chopsticks saw little use. Carp, with its intricate bones, was overshadowed by the opulent offerings adorning the dinner table, making its consumption unnecessary. As night descended, the alley reverberated with the crackling of firecrackers. The fragrance of sulfur mingled with smoke wafted through the air, accompanied by faint laughter carried by the breeze. Xiao Xian, Xiao Yunduan, and their companions joined in setting off firecrackers in the yard before retreating to the cozy interior to commence their meal. A perpetually warm bed dominated the room, with a charcoal brazier gently burning on the floor, infusing the space with comforting heat. Today, a few extra lamps illuminated the room, suffusing it with brightness. In concert with the recently adorned drapes, floral decals on the windows, and the ebb and flow of acquaintances, the scene exuded a lively air, akin to a revolving door of personalities, reminiscent of musical chairs. The arrangement of ornamental plants atop the elevated table, including elegant orchids, vibrant rhododendrons, delicate bamboo, and more, fostered a truly uplifting ambience. The couple arranged a table on the bed, while Li Xia, Li Qiu, and Songshi organized another adjacent to it. Both tables boasted identical spreads of dishes, ensuring unity in the feast. The dawn of the new year had arrived. The paramount agenda was relishing a feast and indulging in drinks. Adding an extra touch to the festivities, Xiao Xian had even procured a jar of sweet osmanthus wine. Laughter and animated conversations filled the air, infusing the atmosphere with vibrant energy. A shared glance between Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan encapsulated their joy, expressed through smiles that mirrored their contentment. With the arrival of the new year came a surge of hope, propelling individuals to strive diligently in its pursuit. Chapter 1200, New Year? After the New Year, the entire capital transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Countless banquets, gatherings, and social events colored the city's atmosphere, creating a whirlwind of busyness. After a few days of returning to her routine work, she began to regain a sense of normalcy, which brought about a slight improvement in her mood. Qiao Xian found herself attending various gatherings and banquets within a 500-meter radius for the first time during the new year, and everything went smoothly. She encountered no issues whatsoever. One notable factor contributing to this was Xiao Yunduan's elevated status. Under the guidance of Minister Old Yun, Xiao Yunduan had risen from an ordinary scholar to an outstanding one. This transformation rendered him immune to any belittlement or discussions about his background, as doing so would be an affront to Minister Old Yun's discerning taste. Disparaging the esteemed Minister Old Yun would mean declaring oneself an adversary of scholars across the realm. Furthermore, Xiao Yunduan's reputation was bolstered by the high regard of the crown prince, leading many to seek his acquaintance rather than shun him. Qiao Xian, as his spouse, felt fortunate beyond measure. Additionally, Qiao Xian presented gifts to Xiao Yunduan's seniors and colleagues from the crown prince's family. These offerings were met with great appreciation due to their opulence and practicality. A young and promising officer held in high esteem by the crown prince, Xiao Yunduan displayed thoughtfulness and respect towards senior family members. Who wouldn't admire such a junior? Who wouldn't want to assist her? Hence, wherever Qiao Xian ventured, someone would introduce her to others and share tidbits of gossip. After a brief respite, Qiao Xian spent 2 days resting at home. Upon hearing the madams discuss the upcoming Lantern Festival, she couldn't help but feel excitement bubble within her. Mentioning the event to Xiao Yunduan, he responded with a smile. "I've heard that the lantern market is a bustling spectacle. I'll accompany you." With a smile, Qiao Xian nodded. "Indeed, we must acquire some lanterns as well." "All right, let's go ahead and buy the lanterns." On the day of the Lantern Festival, they enjoyed a simple dinner at home before setting out. In the capital, grand festivals like this were a rarity, so Li Xia, Li Qiu, and Songshi all joined in the festivities. Xiao Yunduan instructed Songshi to stay close to Li Xia and Li Qiu to prevent them from getting separated. As for himself and Qiao Xian, they didn't need to be accompanied by these bothersome individuals. Immersed in the crowd, the two of them navigated through the lantern-lit streets. Qiao Xian couldn't help but draw parallels to the modern train stations where people bustled about, evoking a sense of nostalgia she hadn't felt since arriving in this new world. "Look at the crowd." Xiao Yunduan arched an eyebrow. Did he hear correctly? It almost sounded like his wife was delightfully captivated by the thronging masses. He tightened his grip on Qiao Xian's hand, guiding her closer to his side. "Stay close to me." The lanterns illuminated the surroundings with intricate brilliance. Various shapes and designs adorned the lanterns, occasionally capturing the attention of onlookers and eliciting admiration and praise. After traversing a long, wide street, they arrived at an expansive square adorned with massive flower-shaped lanterns, each standing 2 or 3 meters tall. Among these were colossal flower baskets, an 8-sided revolving door, musical chairs, the moon palace's change, the auspicious Qilin beast, blooming lotus flowers, carps leaping over dragon gates, the 8 immortals crossing the sea, and more. The luminous display dazzled, reflecting an array of vivid colors that enticed countless individuals to pause, gaze, and offer commentary in awe. All they needed was a camera to take a picture. Chapter 1201. Unexpected? Qiao Xian couldn't suppress a chuckle as the scene played out in her mind. The level of craftsmanship displayed had taken her by surprise. Truly a remarkable display of skill. Regrettable that she lacked a camera to capture its beauty. They stood near Change's area, captivated by the lanterns, when a soft, melodious voice reached their ears. "Officer Zhao, Madam Zhao." Both of them instinctively turned around. The woman before them resembled a living painting, graceful and serene, her smile a gentle curve. It was none other than He Jiqing. Qiao Xian felt a surge of repulsion. How audacious of her to cast such an innocent gaze. The shamelessness knew no bounds. Was her confidence in Qiao Wei so unshakable? Qiao Wei was hardly adept at keeping secrets. Though Qiao Xian had inquired with just a few people, Qiao Wei had unhesitatingly implicated He Jiqing to save herself from the consequences. Recalling Qiao Wei's distorted explanation for He Jiqing's actions, both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan felt a sense of revulsion. But with no concrete evidence and He Jiqing's association with the fourth prince's mansion, silence was their only recourse. Could it be that He Jiqing remained oblivious to their knowledge? The couple maintained a stony silence, their expressions far from welcoming. Yet, He Jiqing carried herself as if all was well. Her smile grew even warmer as she spoke. What a coincidence! Are you here to admire the lanterns as well? Officer Zhao is truly attentive to Madame Zhao. I can't help but envy you. Qiao Xian offered a wry half-smile. Is that so, Madame He? Envious, are you? He Jiqing faltered for a moment, her smile becoming strained. Jealousy was not a sentiment she was entitled to. After all, she was just a concubine. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were officially married. If she dared to voice her envy, it would imply a desire to supplant the current wife and ascend as the fourth prince's true spouse. However, the incumbent wife would never pardon such audacity. Qiao Xian's smile took on a mischievous edge as she fanned the flames. It appears, Madam, He acknowledges it. After all, every woman wishes for her husband's affection. Darling, shall we move on? Before He Jiqing could utter another word, Xiao Yunduan departed alongside Qiao Xian. With a smiling nod, Qiao Xian and her companion melted into the bustling crowd, leaving He Jiqing behind. He Jiqing held the title of the fourth prince's concubine, while they were under the patronage of the crown prince. If they were spotted exchanging pleasantries with He Jiqing, it could invite unwelcome speculation. Clenching her teeth, He Jiqing's glare followed the path the couple took. The low light cast sharp shadows across her visage, intensifying her fierce expression. You're oblivious to your own best interests. Reserving a private chamber at the nearby Yiping tea house, He Jiqing had intended to extend an invitation for them to join her. However, they slipped away without a word. Their manners are utterly lacking. In frustration, He Jiqing vented her ire and proceeded towards the Yiping tea house, accompanied by her maid. A sense of perplexity settled in. Despite hailing from the same hometown, forging a connection seemed elusive. What would the fourth prince make of this? How could she prove her intelligence and utility to him? He Jiqing teetered on the edge of despair. The reality of the capital had caught her off guard. Hailing from a prestigious lineage, she held her talents and beauty in high regard. Girls of her own age, including her cousins from the Xie family, held no sway in her estimation. In her eyes, they were all mere simpletons. Chapter 12:02. In You Come Out and Die Under Skirtu. This scene caused the surrounding fox demons' expressions to drastically change, and they looked at Lin Yi with eyes filled with rage. The woman saw her true form being revealed too, hastily materializing a mirror. After looking into it, she was greatly shocked. My face? Why has my face turned like this? Eastern Taoist friend, what is your intention? The fox elder also lost his flirtatious demeanor. He spoke with a cold expression. Although a few golden core fox demons were sent flying earlier, he didn't mind. But now, it was happening right before his eyes, completely disregarding him. Insulting the Sun-Moon Divine Sect, I'm simply giving a small punishment today as a lesson to prevent the trouble of a clan-exterminating disaster in the future. Lin Yi said without any expression. On the gorgeous face of the fox elder appeared a sharp fox face. You've harmed many Fox Mound disciples one after another. Since it's your first offense, you'll turn a blind eye. Leave now. From today onwards, you're not allowed to enter Fox Mound without permission. Lin Yi gave a faint smile. He originally wanted to capture Yin Yu peacefully, but judging from what has happened since he entered Foxmound, it seemed like that wasn't going to happen. It was evident that the Fox clan was a local tyrant. Through the observation of the Eye of Emptiness, nearly every fox had a black aura of evil. Every one of them likely carried souls of innocent people. If it was his original body, he would definitely choose to leave first, then think of other methods. But now, his identity was Invincible East. Naturally, he couldn't just withdraw. Hand over Yu, the remnant of Xianyin sect, and I will leave. Lin said slowly. We, from Foxmound, have never seen the man in black robes you mentioned. Leave now. The Fox elder sternly said, and these words echoed constantly throughout Foxmound. Lin had already found Yu's location through the Eye of Emptiness. He was hiding under a tomb not far away. This tomb was different from the others. It was very huge and seemed to have a sealing aura. His nascent soul divine consciousness couldn't penetrate it. Since he had already found Yu's location through the Eye of Emptiness, it was much easier now. Yu, your sins are grave. Don't tell me you don't regret them even a little? Come out immediately and go back with me to face your death. Upon hearing Lin's words, the Fox elder suddenly burst into laughter. There's no one by that name in Foxmound. Why are you wasting your breath? Counting on his words to make Yu come out was simply wishful thinking. The Sun Moon Divine Sect's Eastern Sect Master was rumored to be domineering and unparalleled. Upon meeting him today, why is he so naive? However, right after Lin finished speaking, from a gigantic tomb not far away emerged a figure. It was Yu who said very clearly, Eastern Sect Master, I am willing to go back with you to face death. Seeing this, all the fox demons were dumbfounded. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain from Xianyin sect? Someone has clearly told him that he was ushering him to death, and he still voluntarily came out. Very well. Lin nodded. His body flashed as he moved to Yu's side. Just as he was about to leave, the Fox clan old ancestor blocked his path. Upon seeing this, Lin plainly said, this man has regained his conscience and realized his mistakes. He is willing to follow me back to face death. Are you trying to stop him? Yu, are you sure you want to go back with the Eastern Sect Master to face death? Your body and soul would be eliminated, ceasing to exist. The Fox clan old ancestor questioned Yu with skepticism. Fox clan elder, I'm sure to go back with Eastern Sect Master to face death. I don't want to hide anymore. Yu stated without hesitation. As you all have heard, step back now. Otherwise, you will be enemies of my Sun Moon Divine Sect. Lin released a tremendously powerful aura that instilled fear in the surrounding fox demons, causing them to hide back into the graves. Although the Fox clan old ancestor was perplexed, he didn't dare to directly confront this Eastern Sect Master and stepped aside to clear the path. As Lin led Yu past the Fox clan old ancestor, he suddenly stopped and turned back to say, Fox demons, you feed on human spirits. I don't want to interfere in your affairs, however, bear in mind, do not mess with the people of my Sun Moon Divine Sect. Otherwise, you shall be annihilated. As he finished speaking, he transformed into a streak of light and rapidly departed. A forbidding expression flickered across the Fox clan old ancestor's face. This Eastern Sect Master proved more cunning than had anticipated. With only a single sentence, Yu actually emerged proactively, and there was not the slightest hint that he could have been bewitched. After Lin left Foxmound, he ceased the effect of his Good Samaritan title. Yu sobered up instantly. Seeing Lin, his face turned pale. What have you done? Why did I come out, Elder Fox Ancestor? Lin did not respond, but instead laid numerous restrictions on Yu and stored him inside a storage ring which had the conducive conditions for survival. This was a resource he had gathered from 2 different sects. After all, it was bothersome to carry Yu with him while he was still searching for Zhiling's parents. Killing this person outright now would be letting him off too lightly. He intended to torture him slowly after returning to the Sun Moon Divine Sect. When he brought Yu out just now, he was using the effect of the Good Samaritan title. When facing a golden core real person, his words would have 100% belief rate. No matter what he said, even if he ordered Inu to commit suicide, Inu wouldn't hesitate to do so. Of course, such actions would consume a lot of good person value, but getting Inu to come out voluntarily would consume much less. Despite the invincible East's formidable presence, he preferred not to act unless necessary. Moreover, he could sense that deep within Fox Mound, there was a tomb even larger than the one Inu had been hiding in, and a terrifying aura was exuding from it. Even though his Predict Crisis title asserted that there would be no fatal danger ahead of entering the monster forest, he still needed to proceed with caution. For the Fox clan to have established a clan within the monster forest, it was certain that they had something to rely on. Furthermore, that Python seemed to be quite pleased to see him entering into conflict with the Fox clan, and he could not fall into their scheme. Before setting out, Lin used his little luck state to check on the direction of Zhiling's parents and noticed there had been some changes compared to before. And judging by the virtue points expended, it seemed that their distance had increased significantly. He couldn't help but ponder. With the situation as it stood, the direction to Zhiling's parents was constantly changing, and the distance was getting farther and farther. There were two possibilities: either they were chasing their enemy or being pursued by an enemy. Given the capabilities of the lightning mink, neither of these possibilities should last for too long. Perhaps they had encountered more complex issues. Zhiling, we need to speed up, Lin Yi patted Zhiling's head and said with a smile. Zhiling obediently nodded and made a chirping sound. Master, don't be too anxious. Be mindful of your safety. Lin Yi couldn't help but chuckle, patting its head again. I didn't expect you to understand the importance of safety too. Don't worry, there aren't many things in this monster forest that can threaten my life. He hadn't yet used the full strength of his nascent soul, not to mention the effects of his titles. Combined, they could make his strength even more formidable. Besides, if he really encountered a more terrifying entity, he could use his big fortune state, where the instant teleport title and teleport elsewhere. Next, he rapidly traversed the monster forest. When entering the territories of some nascent soul monster ancestor, he would send a message in advance, and they would typically show some respect, letting him pass smoothly. Those at higher realms cherished their lives more. Having practiced cultivation for so long, no one wanted to perish due to a momentary dispute. Some hot-tempered individuals would directly block his path, including one nascent soul monkey that was not much different from a golden ape. Lin Yi showed no mercy, using his overwhelming power to make it surrender without a fight. In this way, he traveled through the core area of the monster forest for around a month. He was almost out of this core region, but the direction of Zhiling's parents was still changing. However, the distance had somewhat narrowed down. Lin Yi couldn't help but wonder what exactly had happened that made Zhiling's parents run around the monster forest for so long. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1203, Past of the Zhao Family. Zhao Mu and his wife, Ms. Zheng, forged a robust marriage alliance that bore the marks of strength and prosperity. The Zhao family embarked on their entrepreneurial journey in the realm of silk production and printing. Ms. Zheng, Zhao Mu's first wife, possessed an impressive expanse of mulberry fields spanning over 100,000 mu. Ms. Zheng held a special place in the hearts of her parents as their only beloved daughter. The Zheng family harbored aspirations of securing a worthy husband for their cherished daughter. With assets including the vast 100,000 mu of mulberry fields, a sprawling farm extending across more than 10,000 mu of fertile land, and a grand residence occupying nearly 10 mu, they possessed substantial wealth that undoubtedly qualified them to attract a fine prospective son-in-law. Such endeavors were pursued to ensure their daughter's prosperous future. As fate would have it, Ms. Jing unexpectedly crossed paths with Zhao Mu on 2 separate occasions. Their chance encounters fostered a favorable impression between the 2 individuals. Seizing the opportunity, Zhao Mu dispatched a representative to formally request Ms. Zheng's hand in marriage. Her consent was readily given, leading to the formalization of their marital bond. Ms. Zheng, being the sole heiress of her lineage, and Zhao Mu, now joined in matrimony, initiated the process of merging their family's assets, creating an intrinsic connection. Moreover, an advantageous synergy emerged due to Ms. Zheng's family's significant holdings in mulberry fields and silkworms, complementing Zhao Mu's involvement in the silk trade. The products of the Zheng family's silk endeavors naturally found their way into Zhao Mu's commercial dealings. Several years later, Ms. Zheng welcomed a son named Zhao Shu, who eventually showed no inclination towards overseeing the family business. Consequently, Zhao Mu assumed primary responsibility for managing the enterprise. Over time, the unfortunate passing of Ms. Zheng's parents resulted in the gradual integration of the Zheng family's possessions under the stewardship of the Zhao family. Undeterred by external chatter, Ms. Zheng remained unfazed in the face of some superficial remarks from other women during social gatherings. She took such remarks in stride, choosing not to be affected. After all, what need was there to be concerned? Her efforts were directed towards safeguarding her legacy for her son's benefit. The amalgamation of the two families' resources was, essentially, a preservation of wealth for her son's future. When her son reached the age of 7, a pivotal moment arrived. Zhao Mu returned with an unexpected entourage, a woman named Qin Shi and 2 young boys, both his offspring. Zhao Mu's revelation left Ms. Zheng utterly stunned. He explained that Qin Shi was his former flame, and the 2 boys were indeed his biological children. The time had come for them to reintegrate into the Zhao family fold. This shocking revelation left Ms. Zheng speechless, her mind reeling. The 2 boys, aged 10 and 7, were older than her own son, an unexpected turn of events that transformed her son from the singular heir of the Zhao family into the young master, now sharing his position with his newfound half-brothers. Qin Shi's demeanor appeared fragile and timid, yet intriguingly complex. Almost immediately after Zhao Mu's words settled, Qin Shi knelt before Ms. Zheng, accompanied by her 2 sons, engaging in a sincere kowtow, pleading for forgiveness and imploring Ms. Zheng to take them under her care. "This is entirely my responsibility. Please do not hold old master accountable. He's grappling with his own set of challenges. Old master has always held you in the highest regard, and should you place blame upon him, his heart would be burdened with sorrow. If my presence disrupts your harmony with old master, I would rather live apart in tranquility. I beseech you, madam, to extend your compassion." Ms. Zheng clenched her handkerchief tightly, overwhelmed by disgust that nearly caused her to regurgitate last night's dinner. The situation before her was utterly repulsive. Never could she have anticipated being confronted by such an appalling predicament. The sheer horror of it all seized her. In this moment, a recollection flashed before her, her mother's gaze in her final moments, marked by compassion and concern. Back then, she failed to comprehend the meaning behind those eyes, assuming her mother merely struggled to part with her. Yet her mother had mustered a faint smile, disguising her worries and reassuring her that everything would be all right, urging her to remain untroubled. She finally understood what her mother's worries were. During Qin Shi's tearful and kneeling plea, Ms. Zheng maintained her silence. The sight of Qin Shi, along with her 2 distressed children, stirred no words from her. Meanwhile, her husband's countenance displayed clear signs of displeasure. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1204, Thunder. Honestly, what had she done? He shot her a displeased look, his hands subconsciously reaching out towards Qin Shi but then retracting. Did she think he hadn't noticed that? Well, that was certainly true. If Qin Shi lacked capability, she wouldn't have borne a son for a concubine before he married his own son, who was just 6 months older than her child. Qin Shi remained remarkably composed. She didn't rush home when her 2 sons were in her care. Instead, she raised both boys until they reached the ages of 12 and 7. By now, the boys had matured significantly, and the chances of manipulation were markedly diminished. The worry of this primary wife forcibly influencing her son wasn't something she needed to entertain. Especially the eldest son of the concubine, who at 12, was poised to marry within a few years. He. Rare were the women in the world more patient and calculating than she was. Mrs. Zheng believed that even if her parents were still alive, Mrs. Qin and her son would have returned to the Zhao family, right? Yet, her parents were gone, a fact that brought her more joy and less resistance. Mrs. Zheng acknowledged that she stood right before her, understanding that whatever she said would likely fall on deaf ears. With 2 sons skilled in putting on a facade and a husband who was visibly biased towards her, what was the point of refuting it? Suppressing the anger bubbling within her, Mrs. Zheng instructed someone to assist Qin in rising and then guided her to a wing room. She couldn't quite suppress her frustration about why Zhao Mu had only chosen to reveal this after so many years. Did she come off as a bad person or something? Certainly she wasn't content. No woman would react favorably to such news. By not causing a scene right then and there, she was already demonstrating a degree of respect towards Zhao Mu. Indeed, Zhao Mu's countenance displayed a mix of embarrassment and guilt. He mumbled, at a loss for how to articulate the situation. He settled on explaining that fate hadn't aligned for the 2 children to return to the estate earlier, resulting in their residence at the Taoist temple for several years. Unspoken were the circumstances concerning Ms. Zheng's character. He couldn't utter that truth, not when she had borne him 2 concubine-born children. Ms. Zheng remained skeptical of his explanation, yet strangely, this was welcome news. Being labeled a malicious person would undoubtedly cast a shadow over her son. Ms. Qin proved to be an intricate individual, necessitating careful strategizing. This woman had an uncanny ability to shed tears. Should she harness this skill to its fullest extent, she would invariably be perceived as a spiteful and malevolent presence. Zhao Mu's account served to confirm Ms. Zheng's suspicions. Amidst a cohesive and rational narrative, Ms. Qin's offspring had been born under delicate circumstances, prompting their temporary upbringing within the temple's sanctuary prior to their reintegration into the estate. To forego this approach would have imperiled not only the children but also the estate itself. With the master now certain of their well-being, their return was sanctioned. In truth, the aging servant and Ms. Zheng herself were privy to this information, but divulgence was prescribed. Ms. Qin might not have held a concubine's title, but she held the genuine status of one. In commemoration of the mother and son's reunion, Ms. Zheng even proposed a grand festivity. Haunted by guilt and swayed by her dignified and joyous demeanor, Zhao Mu acceded. Swift and resolute, Ms. Zheng granted him no chance to waver. The very next day, news of the forthcoming celebration rippled through the estate. Yangzhou buzzed with vitality. Among those who were privy to the situation, praise for Ms. Zheng's virtue was abundant. Deep within, Ms. Qin seethed with irritation, yet her hands were tied. Ms. Zheng's maneuver had effectively eradicated any room for her to cast aspersions on Ms. Zheng's moral standing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1205. Strong Mother. Not virtuous? Would she have permitted Ms. Qin to bear 2 sons from a concubine's position? Would she have gone so far as to arrange a celebratory banquet upon the return of these 2 sons to the Zhao family if her character lacked virtuousness? At the time when Ms. Qin conceived the elder son from the concubine, Ms. Zheng had been wed to the patriarch of the Zhao family for a mere year. Could it be denied that her moral compass was askew? The culpability lay with Ms. Qin. And the blame extended to old Master Zhao. How could he impregnate a concubine right on the heels of formalizing his union with the lawful wife? Ms. Zheng's tactics had thwarted Ms. Qin's scheme. Yet, unsatisfied, Ms. Zheng confronted Zhao Mu, suggesting that the tittle-tattle might besmirch the children's reputation if they were denied re-entry to the estate due to their less prestigious birth dates. Upon hearing this, Zhao Mu set out to scrutinize Ms. Zheng. Internally, Ms. Zheng wore a sneer, while outwardly she remarked, "Dear Master, your concerns are needless. The past is the past, after all, isn't it? Have you not often proclaimed that the past is behind us, and our present is auspicious? It is akin to a providential boon after surviving a catastrophe, a truly fortunate fate. How simple-minded one would have to be not to grasp this. Zhao Mu fell into pensive silence. Evidently, Ms. Zheng perceived that Zhao Mu harbored no partiality toward her. Ms. Qin excelled in the art of tears. Fragile and delicate in demeanor, her visage held an innate softness. She attended meticulously to her appearance and lacked neither gold nor silver fineries. Despite birthing 2 offspring, she retained an appearance redolent of her 20s, an age of allure and enchantment that endeared her to men. Certain individuals are naturally favored by fortune. Ms. Zheng could never aspire to such favor. As the legitimate wife, she had no intention of striving for it either. Amidst her husband's partiality and the absence of her parents, Ms. Zheng resolved to forge a path for herself and her son. Unconcerned with Ms. Qin's greetings, Ms. Zheng instead arranged for someone to assist Ms. Qin in acquiring a residence only slightly smaller than her own. From the storeroom, Ms. Qin was welcome to select whatever provisions she desired. Ms. Qin received a monthly stipend of 80 liang, while Ms. Zheng herself enjoyed 100 liang. It was within Ms. Qin's purview to choose maids and servants from her own yard. In essence, Ms. Zheng deliberately refrained from interfering in Ms. Qin's affairs. Such an approach precluded any grounds for complaint from Ms. Qin. Financially unburdened, Ms. Zheng harbored no qualms about Ms. Qin exploiting her generosity. Her foremost concern lay with her son's welfare. A comprehensive, long-term strategy was imperative for her son's future. Fortunately, the land deeds encompassing the expansive 100,000 mu of mulberry fields remained within her possession, meticulously concealed. This substantial asset was earmarked for her son, and any involvement of Zhao Mu was categorically dismissed. Over the preceding 2 years, Ms. Zheng systematically relocated the majority of her dowry from the Zhao mansion. Leveraging her role as the matriarch, she capitalized on the opportunity to extract significant funds from the intermediary account, augmenting her gains by selling items retrieved from the storeroom. This duo of endeavors alone amassed a valuation surpassing 200,000 liang. Enlisting a trusted confidant, she orchestrated the purchase of an imposing residence valued at 80,000 liang, along with a sprawling 3,000 mu of prime fields in the Hu state. Subsequently, she assigned 2 loyal stewards to oversee operations there. Subsequently, she acquired an expansive residence exceeding the value of 80,000 liang. Furthermore, she procured 2 sizable restaurants and a pair of substantial satin emporiums nestled in Hangzhou. Entrusting her reliable kin, she delegated the management of these establishments. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1206. Trouble. Regarding the valuable dowries, they had been concealed within these 2 houses, respectively. With all matters settled, a deep sigh of relief escaped her lips. Her immediate focus was now directed towards raising her son in a tranquil environment. Being the lawful wife and her son the rightful heir, it was acknowledged that Zhao Mu held a certain bias. Nonetheless, he was poised to allocate a significant portion of the family enterprise to her son. Furthermore, a steady income from the intermediaries would continue to flow her way annually, with no detriment to her son's interests. Given this scenario, the rationale for engaging in rivalry with Ms. Qin seemed moot. However, what she hadn't anticipated was that her disregard for Ms. Qin emboldened her to act as she pleased, as long as the boundary of non-offense was not crossed. Unfortunately, Ms. Qin's intentions didn't end there. She seemed insistent on causing distress. It's plausible that certain individuals are inherently inclined this way. If their origins are marred, the pursuit of tranquility and equilibrium remains elusive. Instead, they become predisposed to instigate disorder and chaos. During the preceding year, Zhao Mu, who had hitherto paid no attention to the Zheng family's sprawling 100,000 mu mulberry fields, unexpectedly demanded the contract from her. The pretext was that it would simplify the management process. Without needing to be explicitly informed, Ms. Zheng was acutely aware that Ms. Qin had undoubtedly played a role in this development. The timing appeared remarkably coincidental. There was a lack of prior incidents before Ms. Qin's arrival, and yet within less than 6 months of her presence in the mansion, Zhao Mu was requesting the contract for the expansive mulberry fields. Ms. Zheng had no intention of acquiescing. Regardless of Zhao Mu's attempts, she remained steadfast in withholding it. Her stance was that the contract remained equally effective in her hands, and managing it posed no inconvenience. If an exigent circumstance were to arise, she was prepared to tackle it herself. Being the rightful wife carried with it certain prerogatives. If Ms. Zheng chose not to comply with Zhao Mu's request, there was little he could do to contest it. However, following that incident, Zhao Mu's affection towards her waned. He became increasingly cautious and guarded around her. Sensing his shift in attitude, Ms. Zheng experienced a mix of annoyance and disdain. Guarding against her? How amusing! They were bound by the ties of matrimony, a connection forged through the ages. They had shared moments of honor and hardship. Wasn't her son their mutual flesh and blood? Hadn't she entrusted her belongings to benefit her son? Wasn't that the very essence of the Zhao family lineage? The fact that he had grown wary of Ms. Qin was simply laughable. Perhaps Zhao Mu was attempting to compel her into a reconciliation and surrendering the contract. However, Ms. Zheng clenched her jaw and held her ground. As the rightful wife, she deserved proper treatment. Anything less, and even the backing clan would not absolve Zhao Mu of his transgressions. Moreover, if the Zhao family disregarded tradition, Zhao Mu would become a subject of mockery beyond their household. She wasn't the type to endure bullying in silence. She had already restrained herself once for the sake of her son. Soon, Zhao Mu intended to replace the managers overseeing the mulberry fields. Timely advice from Uncle Qing enabled her to intervene and spare the managers from replacement. She declared her intention to oversee all affairs pertaining to the mulberry fields personally. As a consequence, Zhao Mu grappled with the sensation that his role as the family's patriarch had been undermined. This perception stirred such irritation that he found himself engaged in heated disputes with her. Ms. Qin, who had previously remained aloof, suddenly appeared at their doorstep, tears streaming down her face, attempting to broker peace between herself, Old Master, and Ms. Zheng. The display left her feeling utterly repulsed. However, Ms. Zheng was far from naive. Some women exhibited a limited perspective, being consumed by their own concerns and self-pity. Yet, there were others, fortified by maternal strength, who wielded their cunning for the sake of their son's well-being. Ms. Zheng undoubtedly fell into the latter category. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1207. An Eye for an Eye. She remained resolute about her stance on the mulberry fields, yet she conceded defeat to Zhao Mu. As a gesture towards him, she even procured 2 younger and more alluring concubines. Out of concern for her husband's well-being and the family's reputation, the 2 concubines she presented to him hailed from respectable families. They possessed not only beauty but also impeccable manners and gentleness, making them the epitome of ideal companions. Further contemplation on this matter seemed unnecessary. Her new focus shifted towards enhancing the allure of these young women to captivate her husband's attention. Zhao Mu, feeling his dignity restored, exuded happiness. He diligently visited the quarters of the 2 recent concubines without any objection, symbolizing his compliance. Ms. Qin grew anxious and resorted to confrontation with the newly introduced concubines. Observing with a derisive grin, Ms. Zheng orchestrated assistance for the concubines, enabling them to engage in a more formidable struggle against Ms. Qin. This behavior highlighted the disposition of those inclined towards turmoil, seemingly content with turmoil rather than embracing a harmonious existence. Had Ms. Qin refrained from such actions and refrained from whispering malicious words behind Ms. Zheng's back, the latter might not have resorted to these tactics. As a result of this stratagem, Ms. Zheng's life unfolded tranquilly over the following 2 years. During this interim period, she clandestinely acquired properties in Huzhou and Hangzhou for her son, liquidating her own substantial dowries. As anticipated, Ms. Qin exhibited restlessness. Eager to secure a daughter-in-law for her eldest son, who had recently turned 14, she urgently sought a resolution. The means by which she persuaded Zhao Mu remained a mystery, but he eventually approached Ms. Zheng for discussion. Her conscience somewhat unsettled, she entered the conversation. Zhao Mu's past actions had led to her disappointment, yet her displeasure had now waned. Ultimately, she assented. Why not? Wouldn't that infuse the entire situation with more vibrancy? She harbored no concern over the possibility of Ms. Qin aiming to compete by seeking a daughter-in-law. The behavior and characteristics of Zhao Di and Zhao Yi had been abundantly clear to her over the past couple of years. Hence, her sense of worry remained non-existent. What a pair of imbeciles they were. Admittedly, it was Ms. Qin who once guided her before her enlightenment. However, Ms. Qin lacked the capacity for magnanimity and open-mindedness, alongside any notable virtues. While she harbored no inclination to meddle in Zhao Zhai's marital affairs, she chose to keep her intentions concealed. Given Ms. Qin's narrow-minded disposition, it was all too predictable that she would attempt to obstruct the process of arranging her son's marriage to prevent a potentially unfavorable union. As anticipated, it took only a matter of days for Zhao Mu to broach this topic with Ms. Zheng. Traditionally, the maternal figure held authority over the matrimonial matters concerning concubines' sons and daughters. Although Zhao Mu himself questioned the propriety of his involvement, Ms. Qin's assertion was valid. Zhao Di, as his eldest son, held a distinct status among his progeny. Consequently, the selection of his prospective spouse warranted careful consideration. In Ms. Zheng's heart, only her third son occupied prominence, rendering her indifferent to Zhao Zhai's marital situation. Considering Ms. Qin's role as the mother, it was her responsibility to undertake this endeavor. Internally harboring a sense of disdain, Ms. Zheng expertly simulated deep contemplation, abstaining from immediate response. After an extended pause, she exerted effort to articulate, "Were it not for your decision, it is conceivable that outsiders might have propagated certain speculations." Zhao Mu interjected, affirming, "Indeed, no one shall cast aspersions upon the integrity of the Zhao family's marital affairs." Internally, Ms. Zheng responded with a derisive smirk before releasing a resigned sigh. That approach is feasible as well. Alternatively, I could feign illness, prompting Ms. Qin to step in for some plausible reason. Zhao Mu's elation was palpable. "Very well, that's an excellent idea. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1208. Smart? Ms. Zheng's claim of being sick was not without reason. Her need to purchase various supplements such as ginseng, cubulose, floral glue, and donkey hide gelatin justified her actions. She could list as many items as she pleased. Having accrued over 35,000 liang from the joint account for Zhao Zhai's wedding, Ms. Zheng, while counting the money, displayed immense satisfaction. She was willing to allocate even more funds without hesitation. Feigning illness, Ms. Zheng skillfully guided her son. This accomplishment filled Ms. Qin with overwhelming pride, nearly lifting her spirits to flight. Despite her status as a concubine, Ms. Qin enjoyed a personal meeting with her daughter-in-law and vigorously defended her son's union. This feat was truly an honorable achievement. However, this path presented a challenge. High-ranking families with their esteemed matriarchs would hesitate to discuss matrimonial matters with a concubine. The mere idea provoked ridicule. Even the offspring of a concubine held little standing. Lineal daughters were entirely out of the question, let alone the concubine's eldest son. Only circumstances such as having no lineal son or being born from a concubine allowed exceptions. Ms. Qin's aspiration to unite her lineage with the Zhao family's lineal daughter encountered a succession of obstacles, fueling a mix of anger, resentment, and envy. She couldn't help but envision a scenario where she held the position of a lineal wife, immune to any belittlement. The reality forced Ms. Qin to confront her humility. As equals in status, the Zhao family's lineal daughter was limited in her choices, necessitating a marriage to a woman of lower rank. Inevitably, the union would take place with the lineal daughter. Eventually, a suitable family was discovered, boasting hundreds of mu of fertile fields and a few well-sized stores. This discovery prompted hearty laughter from Ms. Zheng. Wouldn't it be fitting for a daughter from such a family to be bestowed upon the sons of the Zhao family's stewards? Ms. Qin, it appeared, harbored no particular preferences. Zhao Mu remained unaware of these developments until the engagement had been solidified. The revelation of the in-law's status nearly rendered him speechless, leading to a stern rebuke directed at Ms. Qin. This instance of Ms. Qin's actions managed to greatly irk Zhao Mu. He had yet to encounter a woman so utterly lacking in awareness and intelligence. Despite his past indulgences in unreasonable behavior, this particular situation required a more subtle approach. In light of the circumstances, Zhao Mu covertly distanced himself from Ms. Qin's quarters for nearly 2 weeks, effectively ignoring her. This abrupt withdrawal provoked a flurry of anxiety within Ms. Qin. With an acute understanding that her sole support rested upon Zhao Mu's shoulders, Ms. Qin recognized her precarious position. Unlike Ms. Zheng, who possessed significant assets, Ms. Qin's fate was tightly bound to Zhao Mu's inclination. A disinterest on his part would inevitably seal her doom. In a desperate bid to amend the situation, Ms. Qin employed various strategies to reconcile and apologize. She exhaustively explored every avenue to rectify her standing. Observing this spectacle, Ms. Zheng couldn't help but be scornful. It appeared that Zhao Mu's treatment of Ms. Qin was far from exemplary. To fall for such a man, Ms. Zheng surmised, was a grave misjudgment on Ms. Qin's part. It wasn't until Ms. Qin had endured a solitary fortnight, fully absorbing her lesson, that Zhao Mu granted his forgiveness. He reached a clear conclusion. Ms. Zheng alone held the mantle of a competent wife, the sole bearer of initiative and competence in the household. Ms. Qin was ill-suited for such responsibilities. As a concubine, her primary role was to provide attentive service. Her duty extended to offering complimentary words to please her, but the burden of substantial tasks should not be placed upon her shoulders. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1209. Intermediate. Zhao Mu had entrusted the task of managing Zhao Zhai's wedding to Ms. Zheng. Although Ms. Qin was initially reluctant, she desired to orchestrate her son's marriage herself. The mere thought of directing the servants filled her with delight. She also aimed to oversee the financial aspects and ensure the wedding's success. However, she had just managed to pacify Zhao Mu and didn't dare to oppose his decision directly. Ms. Zheng pondered for a moment and voiced a firm stance. Ms. Qin was to stay uninvolved. If Ms. Qin preferred not to be engaged, Ms. Zheng would take the reins. Alternatively, Ms. Qin could simply relinquish control. Zhao Mu promptly assented, even expressing a touch of contempt. Ms. Qin lacks understanding. It's best to disregard her. Upon hearing this, Ms. Zheng's disdain for him deepened. Ms. Zheng eagerly embraced the responsibility of hosting the wedding. Even if she abstained, the situation would remain unchanged. Her intentions were threefold: to provoke Ms. Qin's ire, showcase her own virtue, and exploit opportunities for financial gain and advancement. Such a prospect thrilled her as it held numerous advantageous openings. Post-wedding, Ms. Zheng pocketed 50,000 liang from her intermediary role, eliciting immense joy. Concerned about Ms. Zheng's well-being, Ms. Qin endeavored to visit the main yard, only to be repelled by Ms. Zheng. Dissatisfied? Seek a resolution with Zhao Mu. Yet, Ms. Qin hesitated, her frustration mounting. Not long after, Ms. Qin's new daughter-in-law, Ms. Ruan, arrived at the residence. Ms. Zheng struggled to fathom Ms. Qin's motives, perplexed by her choice of daughter-in-law. Later, Word circulated that Ms. Qin had acquired this match from an undisclosed source, the consensus being that the girl possessed both beauty and blessings. Ms. Zheng found herself at a loss for words. Zhao Di held a mixed sentiment toward his wife, not necessarily harboring aversion, yet not embracing affection either. His actions were likely driven by diligent effort, perhaps at the urging of his concubine. Within merely 3 months of Ms. Ruan's marriage, the joyful news spread. Pregnancy seemed imminent within a month of the wedding. This revelation left Ms. Zheng stunned. Ms. Qin's judgment had proven astute. The prospect of childbirth seemed promising. This development bolstered Ms. Qin's pride, as if she had significantly contributed to the Zhao family's legacy. She yearned to perpetuate tales of how she had coaxed Zhao Mu into safeguarding and nurturing both Ms. Ruan and her unborn child, the eagerly awaited eldest grandson. During this period, Ms. Qin radiated with pride and arrogance. And, truthfully, she had a basis for it. Having borne the old master's first and second sons, and with her own son and daughter-in-law delivering the old master's grandchild, the Zhao family's future seemed inevitably intertwined with theirs. The heir was in his infancy. Ms. Qin harbored a belief that Ms. Zheng might succumb to jealousy and resort to underhanded means to induce a miscarriage in Ms. Ruan. Ms. Qin acquired 2 additional maids, instructing them to remain by Ms. Ruan's side, ensuring her safety. All of Ms. Yuan's meals were prepared in the smaller kitchen, exclusively using ingredients sourced from within the estate. There was no necessity to acquire anything from external sources. Ms. Qin's actions served as an affront to the household managers and purchasers, leaving them inwardly disgruntled. In response, Ms. Zheng offered a scornful sneer and chose to take no action. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:10 Trouble. She had no interest in engaging in disputes with a group of individuals she considered unintelligent. After enduring a challenging 10 months of pregnancy, Ms. Yuan faced difficulties, yet she managed to successfully give birth to her child. Ms. Qin and Zhao Zhai were thoroughly entertained by the new addition, a boy. Zhao Mu was equally elated. After all, he had become a grandfather. However, tragedy struck before the child could even reach 1 month of age. He passed away within the first 7 days. The event unfolded in the midst of the night, with Ms. Qin's shrieks rousing Ms. Zheng from her distant position in the yard. Upon hearing this, Ms. Zheng exchanged a knowing glance with Auntie Yin. Neither of them exhibited surprise. In a hushed tone, Auntie Yin muttered, "What a tragic fate." Indeed, it was a tragedy. Ms. Ruan had only recently turned 15 at the time of her pregnancy, while Zhao Di was merely 14. Their youth and immaturity made it an exceptional occurrence that Ms. Ruan even managed to carry the pregnancy to term and deliver a child. Expecting the child to be healthy seemed unrealistic. The child had never even left the confines of the room he was born in. Fearing Ms. Zheng's potential jealousy and harm towards the child, Ms. Qin justified her decision to keep the child secluded, asserting that he was too fragile for the outside world. In an attempt to bridge the gap, Ms. Zheng sent Auntie Yin to visit, though she was denied entry. No members of the immediate family ventured into the room. Ms. Qin struggled to lay blame on Ms. Zheng for the child's demise, with no plausible excuse at hand. Adding to the intrigue, the doctor claimed the child's weakness was the primary reason for his premature death, refuting any notion of foul play. Despite this explanation, Ms. Qin maintained her stance that foul play was involved and pushed for a thorough investigation. Zhao Mu's outburst silenced her protests. Unforeseen by Ms. Qin, Ms. Ruan found herself pregnant again within a mere 4 months. This time, Ms. Qin exercised even greater caution, keeping Ms. Ruan within the yard's boundaries and under close supervision. She grieved deeply for her late grandson, who had been the eldest among the Zhao family's grandchildren, symbolizing a significant portion of their wealth. Yet, in an instant it was all gone. Unexpectedly, Ms. Yuan's second child was also stillborn, a son, once again. Witnessing this, Ms. Qin broke into tears anew, and Ms. Ruan's crying showed no signs of abating either. The relationship between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law was undeniably strained, marked by hardship. Ms. Zheng, for sure, took a certain satisfaction in this situation. However, a pang of sympathy for Ms. Ruan also welled up within her. Ms. Qin had squandered the opportunity to nurture such a promising young woman. It seemed just yesterday that Ms. Ruan was merely a 10-year-old, nestled in her mother's arms, full of innocent pleas. But due to the successive loss of 2 children, her countenance had transformed, pale, haggard, and perpetually furrowed. As though all vitality had been sapped from her, leaving behind a mere semblance of her former self. Startled, Ms. Zheng crossed paths with her. Anticipating her own unpleasant fate, Ms. Zheng was aware that living under the sway of someone like Ms. Qin, her prospects were grim. 2 consecutive child losses had already plunged her into a state of sorrow and trepidation. Ms. Qin was bound to heap blame and reprimand upon her. Zhao, who obediently followed Ms. Qin's every word, provided no solace. He wasn't someone she could rely on. Still, Ms. Zheng hadn't foreseen the extent to which Ms. Yuan's condition had deteriorated. However, that was the affair of Ms. Qin and her son. It was a matter Ms. Zheng chose not to involve herself in. What relevance did it have to her? Ms. Qin's relentless antagonism persisted, perpetually clashing about her grandchildren. Ms. Qin seemed to have been exceptionally fortunate, and she harbored a desire for her daughter-in-law to endure and persevere. In a span of just 5 months, Ms. Yuan found herself pregnant once more. Ms. Zheng and the first section members of the family could only respond with astonished admiration. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12:11. Ms. Qin's Madness? This time, Ms. Qin didn't solely pin her hopes on Ms. Ruan. Instead, she assigned 2 concubines, both from impoverished rural backgrounds, to Zhao. One of the girls hailed from a destitute countryside family and possessed a strikingly beautiful countenance and figure. Her demeanor was devoid of elegance, intrigue, coquettishness, or worldliness. Rather, she exuded an air of honesty, almost bordering on dullness. However, her attributes were deserving of commendation. In this instance, Ms. Zheng grasped Ms. Qin's strategy. They aimed to excel in childbearing. Ms. Qin held a favorable disposition toward these 2 girls, convinced that they had the potential to conceive and bear children. A derisive snort escaped Ms. Zheng's lips. Ms. Qin's decisions were her own prerogative, a fact she remained unfazed by. She observed the unfolding spectacle with considerable amusement. Yet, Ms. Qin had miscalculated this time. The apparent, childbearing prowess of these 2 concubines yielded no pregnancies even after 6 months. Growing anxious, Ms. Qin employed various supplements to no avail. Her intent to acquire additional concubines for Zhao persisted. Driven to a state of recklessness, Ms. Qin was ready to intervene further. However, Zhao rebuked her, instructing her to desist from securing more concubines for Zhao. At slightly over a decade in age, Zhao was already wed to 1 wife and held 2 concubines. If another concubine were to be added to the mix, would it not jeopardize his well-being or tarnish his reputation? Fearing a direct confrontation with Zhao after the lesson, Ms. Qin offered her apologies and arranged for a maid to attend to Zhao. Ms. Qin had devised a shrewd strategy. If the maid became pregnant and delivered a child, she would be elevated to the status of concubine, thus striking a harmonious balance. Curiously, no other pregnancies materialized. This time around, Ms. Ruan grappled with heightened stress, impairing her child-rearing efforts. Regrettably, the child was born but did not survive past a month, in line with expectations. Ms. Yuan's heart plummeted, driving her to attempt self-inflicted harm using a length of white silk. Though she was ultimately rescued by her attending maid, her health had deteriorated, rendering her unable to conceive for a span of 2 to 3 years. Subsequent to a series of harsh setbacks, Ms. Qin's vigor waned. A vehement loathing for Ms. Zheng had firmly taken root within Ms. Qin's heart. She steadfastly clung to the belief that Ms. Zheng must have schemed covertly against her. The depths of Ms. Zheng's cunning were far too elusive to unravel. Yet, Ms. Qin was convinced there had to be some clandestine machination at play. Otherwise, the string of misfortunes would not have unfolded with such eerie synchronicity. How else could the predicaments besiege the offspring in succession? Historically, Ms. Zheng had never entangled herself with Ms. Qin and her progeny. She hadn't even glimpsed Ms. Yuan's child upon birth. Yet, the repetition of a lie could potentially sow seeds of doubt and warrant unwarranted belief. Excessive discussion invariably begets a multitude of complications. Ms. Qin's assertions resounded with unwavering confidence, instigating Zhao Mu's skepticism. Driven by suspicion, he sought a direct confrontation with Ms. Zheng. While harboring minimal optimism for this interaction, Ms. Zheng couldn't help but shudder at Zhao Mu's utterances. Zhao Mu had succumbed to Ms. Qin's falsehoods and began to cast doubt upon Ms. Zheng. In response, Ms. Zheng emitted a derisive chuckle. Throughout my tenure in this family, I've consistently refrained from entangling myself with the mother and son, precisely to avoid such baseless suspicions. Can you truly fault me for this? Do Ms. Qin's words wield the authority of imperial decrees? Is she at liberty to utter whatever pleases her, devoid of substantiation? Irritated by her retort, Zhao Mu's patience snapped. Fine. No, I never said anything negative about you. Can't you communicate without the sarcasm? Must you always resort to being so snide? Their exchange ignited yet another heated disagreement. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 569. Great Wish, Hardcore Doppelganger. The usage of this skill was brainless. Lu Chen wanted to make a wish on the spot, but because the wish was too powerful and the side effects were too obvious, he couldn't make up his mind. After hesitating for a while, Lu Chen thought of something and his eyes suddenly lit up. Wait, since I can't be sure, I can look for Catherine and the others. Isn't this what I'm supposed to do? Moreover, Catherine and the others are orthodox mages. The wish spell was originally developed by people like them. It's even possible that this world has a similar power like the wish spell. With that thought in mind, Lu Chen's eyes lit up and he connected to Catherine with the thread of faith. Come to my place. As a godhood, his matters were naturally the most important. As a result, a space transmission pathway appeared outside the door within 2 to 3 minutes of sending out the message. But to Lu Chen's surprise, it wasn't just Catherine who came. Frostwolf and Elian were here as well. Among them, Frostwolf looked vigilant and even a little hostile. Irene's expression was also very strange, as if she had made up her mind about something. You're all here? Forget it, we can also come up with some ideas together. As soon as he said that, Lu Chen noticed that the three of them heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Chen was a little confused. Why are you so afraid of seeing me? Helene spread her hands and stood up first. His Majesty is too powerful, and the pressure he gives us is too great. In Luo, all right. Let's not talk about this. I have an ability that I need Catherine, who is a mage, to refer to. Since you're all here, help me take a look. Lu Chen shook his head speechlessly and explained all the abilities of the Great Wish. He then asked how to get the desired result. The Great Wish? All wishes in the world can be fulfilled, Your Majesty. Is this true? Can eternal youth be fulfilled? Lu Chen didn't expect the three of them to be so shocked after hearing the introduction of the Great Wish. Even the knowledgeable Frostwolf and Catherine were the same. Lu Chen was a little disappointed. It seems that there's no omnipotent wishing machine in this world. Lu Chen replied to her while he was thinking. It's not exactly omnipotent. Limited by my ability, the things it can do are also limited. But what you said about eternal youth, that's simple. He took out 3 golden apples from Avalon and said, The golden apple has the ability to stay young forever. It can also extend one's life. One can extend one's life by 800 years. You can take it. After handing over the 3 golden apples, Lu Chen said, "You mages should have the ability to stay young forever, right?" "Yes, Your Majesty. We have it, but it needs to be maintained by sorcery. Besides, I'm the only one who has it." Irene and Frostwolf are not mages, and they don't want to thank Your Majesty for the reward. As she spoke, Catherine gave a golden apple to Frostwolf. The middle-aged man was very reluctant to do so. He was very satisfied with his aged body. "I don't need such a thing." "No, you need it." Under Catherine's intense gaze, Frostwolf could only accept the golden apple. The warmth of the family made Lu Chen smile. But soon he remembered the Frostwolf's hostility. "This guy, he can't be thinking that I pulled Catherine over to do something bad, right? Am I that kind of person?" Lu Chen felt like he was being insulted, but unfortunately, they didn't say it out loud and he couldn't blame them for it. On the other hand, Elian noticed the change in Lu Chen's expression and quickly brought up the question he asked. "Aunt Catherine, do you have any suggestions for the Great Wish spell?" he asked. "Although I've never seen this kind of sorcery before, everything in the world can't be separated from an equivalent exchange. You have to pay a price for the wish you want." His Majesty said that the Great Wishing spell can't be controlled, which is probably because he didn't make the price clear. Catherine thought for a moment before she continued, "Your Majesty, you can make your wish as clear as possible in your mind at the cost of something you own. It's best if there are steps to complete it. Then, you can use the Great Wish spell to make a wish. Also, Your Majesty, please test some small wishes first." Catherine's words opened Lu Chen's eyes. He thought for a while and pointed at a table. "With the power of light as the price, I hope this table can become a computer." Lu Chen thought of his laptop from his previous life and voiced his wish. As he spoke, Lu Chen realized that a lot of his light energy disappeared. But when the light energy disappeared, the table in front of Lu Chen also slowly changed. Soon, an object that he was familiar with appeared in front of him. Lu Chen was so excited that he opened the laptop, and when he saw the system light up, his face was filled with joy. "I actually succeeded." Seeing how he easily obtained the items from his previous life, Lu Chen was so excited that he used the power of light as the price to produce countless items. Lu Chen also realized that he could use energy to conjure something out of thin air, or he could change the nature of a specific object. The latter required less energy than the former. The excited experiment lasted for more than an hour. In the end, Lu Chen's room was filled with the things he had in his previous life. Computers, phones, cars, guns, and even a military helicopter. The Great Wishing spell. This is the true omnipotent power. Lu Chen's heart was filled with joy and excitement. But after thinking for a while, Lu Chen realized that he could indeed conjure up many things, but these things wouldn't be of much use to him. It's a pity. If I had drawn this skill when I was still a low-level player, I would have been able to play with it a lot. But now, conjuring things from my previous life is just adding flowers to a brocade, or even just a toy. It's not very useful. The mythical level Great Wish could not only conjure ordinary things but also create things with technology. Lu Chen even felt that if the price was high enough, he could even create a divinity crystal out of thin air. However, just like what Catherine said, the Great Wish required an equivalent exchange. Even if the items could be conjured, Lu Chen wouldn't be able to afford the cost. Therefore, the final result might be a huge disaster. Forget it. Let's not think about the double-edged foil anymore. I'll just go with the original plan and transform a part of my soul into a computer. Lu Chen was about to send Catherine and the others away while he sat down quietly to prepare for the soul mutation. However, the two girls were quite interested in the strange items Lu Chen made, so Lu Chen gave them some of them. When they were taking the items away, Lu Chen also noticed that Elian was purely interested in them while Catherine was planning to research something out of them. Lu Chen didn't really care about it. It's not bad if we can really develop something. At least it can improve the quality of life of the people here. Anyway, with the current technology of the blue planet, no matter how much it improves, it can't threaten me. When there were no legends, technological civilizations could suppress spirit chi civilizations. However, with legends, the situation would change. Every legend was a mobile nuclear weapon, the kind that was difficult to aim and kill. The stronger legends were good at soul manipulation or spatial teleportation, and they could even destroy the Blue Star civilization. After all, the soul and space were areas that the humans on the blue planet had yet to reach. As for the myths and legends, they were equivalent to the interstellar civilization, and Lu Chen was at least half a god. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of Catherine's research. He even conjured many basic books for Catherine, who was a mage. Study it. This is the crystallization of another world civilization. If you can study it, you'll be the one leading the world. Your Majesty is merciful. Even though it was the same words as before, Lu Chen heard a sincere gratitude from her this time. Lu Chen waved his hand and asked them to leave. But when the three of them reached the door, Lu Chen suddenly thought of something and said, "The evils have a plan against me, but it's not easy for them to kill me. In order to be confident, they might use you guys as bait to lure me into their trap. So be careful for now. If you really fall into a trap, I won't go to your rescue." These words caused the three people's expressions to freeze. "Yes, Your Majesty." After the three of them left, Lu Chen began to prepare his soul to become a mental computer. "I hope I can succeed on the first try." He put his hands together and took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. Then, he closed his eyes and split a part of his soul. The splitting process was extremely painful, but it wasn't difficult for Lu Chen to endure the pain. In the end, Lu Chen's soul split into 1/10 of his body. This level is enough. If it's possible, then slowly split it. It's related to the soul, so it's best to be careful. Looking at the soul in his mind, Lu Chen chanted and made a wish to the universe. "With the power of light as the price, I hope that this part of the soul will have computing power like a computer." As soon as Lu Chen gave the order, he could feel the power of light in his body being sucked away like crazy. In a very short time, a huge amount of energy in his body was drained away. Feeling the emptiness in his body, Lu Chen didn't have time to be shocked. He immediately thought of extracting the power of flesh and blood if the power of light wasn't enough. "The power of light has the fire of prayers, so I can recover quickly. Flesh and blood are the same as energy, so even if it's damaged, I can recover quickly. If you want to extract, just extract these two. Don't use the soul." Lu Chen didn't care about the damage to his energy and flesh, but it would be troublesome if something went wrong with his consciousness and soul. So, he was praying. Fortunately, the Great Wishing Spell wasn't an evil thing like the contaminated Holy Grail that would distort people's wishes. It was a true all-purpose wishing machine. Under Lu Chen's extreme desire, the Great Prayer absorbed the power of light and then Lu Chen's blood. The crazy absorption lasted for 3 minutes. Just when Lu Chen felt a little weak, the Great Wish finally absorbed enough energy and the part of Lu Chen's soul that was split away also changed. The change didn't last long, and when it was completed, the split soul didn't turn into a computer, but returned to its original state. However, Lu Chen could clearly feel the difference. The thoughts of that part of his soul were no longer the same as his original self. With his strong consciousness, Lu Chen finally managed to control the part of the soul. As the split soul returned to his body, Lu Chen realized that his soul had undergone a change. He didn't become smarter, he was still the old Lu Chen. His intelligence and wisdom didn't change at all, but Lu Chen realized that his speed of solving problems was more than twice as fast. At the same time, he could also divide his attention and recall his past experiences at will. Isn't this the feeling of an implanted computer? It's not bad. After the implanted computer, there was also the artificial intelligence. Lu Chen had a feeling that the energy required to turn the split soul into an artificial intelligence would be double the amount. But Lu Chen crushed the thought in his mind. It's fine as long as I have one consciousness, an artificial intelligence. Even if it's absolutely loyal to me, I won't let it appear in my soul. The tyrant's life did not require 2 brains. Lu Chen shook his head to get rid of the idea of creating an AI and continued to experiment with the mind computer. After some processing, Lu Chen realized that other than the speed of his processing, the multi-core processing ability was also the most useful to him. With this type of multi-core, I can completely divide my attention during battle. My main body will charge into close combat, and it'll split a part of my energy to control the light energy and shoot it in all directions. Moreover, it's not just for battle. It's useful now. With that thought in mind, Lu Chen returned to hell again. Under Lu Chen's will, the second ghost revealed itself as the Dreadlord again. After the Dreadlord's appearance struck fear into all the souls in hell, the Sin City in the dream was once again established. He placed his mind computer at the lowest level of Sin City and ordered it to absorb the soul according to the program. Then, Lu Chen's soul returned to the real world. In the future, I don't need to cultivate in seclusion anymore. Lu Chen could feel his true spirit being absorbed into his body, and his consciousness was not affected at all. He couldn't help but smile. Then, he once again tested the combination of soul splitting, flesh indestructible, and mind computer. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen waited for his body and energy to recover before he split another part of his soul and turned it into a mental computer. To put it in another way, after turning into a mental computer, Lu Chen's part of the soul would only act according to the program that had been processed or Lu Chen's orders. In fact, it could even deal with problems faster than Lu Chen's main consciousness. Of course, there was a price to pay. The thinking computer could only handle the problems that had been ordered. Once there was an anomaly, it could not make a decision. This was also the difference between artificial intelligence and computers. However, even though the soul computer couldn't do it, Lu Chen could still set it up so that it would contact him immediately if anything happened. There was almost no distance between their souls. As long as there was a slight connection, Lu Chen could place his consciousness into his soul and control everything with his own thoughts. Therefore, as long as the distance was not too far away, it was not a weakness. It's good that it doesn't have consciousness. At least I won't have a clone betraying me. While he was thinking, Lu Chen didn't stop moving. After the part of his soul turned into a mental computer, Lu Chen didn't let it stay in his sea of consciousness. Instead, he transferred the part of his soul to the right side of his body. After the soul transfer was completed, Lu Chen thought for a moment and used the silver hand to slash at the right side of his body. The sharpness of the silver hand and the fact that Lu Chen tried his best not to block it tore a large piece of Lu Chen's body. However, after the body was destroyed, the parts that were split immediately came back to life and tried to merge back into Lu Chen's body. This was the characteristic of the indestructible flesh and blood. However, Lu Chen suppressed the return and immediately controlled the flesh with his split soul. Under the control of the split soul, the cut-off part of the body no longer returned to the body. However, under the soul's transformation, the body part was changing rapidly. In a short time, a smaller Lu Chen appeared in front of him. Doppelganger. This is my doppelganger ability. Splitting the soul and cutting off the flesh and blood. Because the soul and the flesh came from the same source, they could be easily fused together. This was Lu Chen's clone, but the process of making it was too hardcore. However, the hard core that was created was also very strong. When Lu Chen created the clones, he basically cut himself in half and turned a part of his body into a clone. The clones had all his abilities, body constitution, bloodline, and most of the other abilities. It was just that they had less energy. However, he did not have items like Avalon, the divinity, or the fire of wishes. That's enough. We don't need a bicycle to patrol the sky. Well, destroy any evil that appears. As Lu Chen gave an order to the mind computer, number 2, the main consciousness didn't have a number and number 1 was absorbing the true soul in Sin City, spread out its 12 wings and flew into the sky. Afraid that something might happen to number 2, Lu Chen's main consciousness followed it closely as it flew into the sky. After flying for a while, Lu Chen realized that the only problem was that number 2's energy was no longer infinite without Avalon and the fire of prayers. Fortunately, because the flesh and blood were still his, Lu Chen also gave him a part of his heart. This allowed number 2 to still have the ability to absorb the sunlight and convert it into energy. This ability allowed number 2 to have a good endurance. light form, steel body, size change, the sun's protection, and other skills that are rooted in the body are all here. The platinum star that is rooted in the soul is also here. Number 2 is able to deal with most of the dangers, but there is too little energy and too small a body to deal with the evil god. However, I don't let him go out of the astral world. It should be no problem for him to wander around the world. Lu Chen didn't finish his sentence. Even if there's a problem, I'll only lose a part of my flesh and soul. It doesn't matter. Lu Chen didn't really care. Computer number 1's soul was merging with the true spirit in Sin City while Lu Chen's split body was also recovering rapidly. Soon, Lu Chen realized that his body was fully recovered. My body can split infinitely. If I have enough energy, you can cut my flesh every day and satisfy the lives of 1 million people. As his flesh and blood remained intact, Lu Chen's soul grew stronger and stronger. This allowed Lu Chen to create a few more computer clones. Such a clone could be used as a pawn to die, which was why it was difficult to kill with an undying soul. Do I need to continue creating more clones? Moreover, this time he was creating a thought computer clone. Or just simply split his soul and flesh and let him find a place to sleep. The first type of clone was a scout, a helper. The second type was Lu Chen's backup. If he still died in the battle against the evil god after passing all 12 trials, he could still be resurrected with the backup. However, Lu Chen eventually gave up on the idea. Flesh and blood are still fine. They can be split limitlessly, but the total amount of my soul remains the same. If a part of my soul is split, the soul of my main consciousness will be reduced. If I split too much, my ability to survive will be stronger. However, the remaining soul will not be able to completely control my body. Naturally, it will be impossible to kill the godhood. Lu Chen wanted to kill a god, so he only created 2 clones. One of them would patrol in the sky to clear the evils and collect mastery points for himself, while the other would absorb the true souls in Sin City. Lu Chen was already prepared to retrieve the 2 souls when the battle broke out. However, even though he didn't plan to create more clones, Lu Chen still split half of his soul and used the Great Wish to create a soul computer. With the help of this external computer, Lu Chen's computing power was greatly enhanced. And Lu Chen soon felt the benefits. I couldn't make nuclear fusion controllable before because I wasn't good at controlling energy, and I couldn't keep the stability of nuclear fusion while fighting. But now, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 12-13, Planning for him. Presumably, they also held him in contempt due to his being considered an eyesore? Even after his departure, he continued to dispatch individuals to monitor the Zhao family closely. He possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of significant events within the Zhao family that transpired over the past 3 years. Following the conclusion of his mourning period, he seized the opportunity of his father's extended absence to return. Subsequently, he casually announced his intention to embark on a journey. His initial stop was Huzhou, followed by Hangzhou, where his primary objective was to assume responsibility for and assess the properties acquired by his mother on his behalf. His mother was undeniably capable. She had entrusted her family with utmost loyalty and expertly managed these properties. In addition to her early purchases, she had later acquired 10,000 mu of land on the outskirts of Hangzhou City, along with numerous valuable antiques and jewelry. This substantial estate secured by his mother would enable them to live a prosperous and content life without needing any assistance from the Zhao family. Zhao Shu's heart was overwhelmed with sorrow, and tears welled up uncontrollably. How he longed for his mother's presence. He would willingly relinquish all ties to the Zhao family in exchange for his mother's well-being. Regrettably, this remained a far-fetched and unattainable dream. His mother was no longer among the living, having passed into the realm of the departed. The past and future were forever separated from the present, and their mother-son bond had been irrevocably severed. He harbored an intense loathing for Zhao Mu and Ms. Qin. Even if his mother had indeed met with an unfortunate accident, he could not forgive the anguish inflicted upon her by Zhao Mu and Ms. Qin. In his eyes, they were nothing short of murderers. Upon what grounds did his mother meet such a suspicious and abrupt demise, enduring untold suffering while still alive, while these two culprits led a life of untroubled opulence? It would have been acceptable if his mother were still alive, but with her gone, he felt an unshakable determination to seek justice on her behalf. For the sole purpose of avenging his mother, those two individuals deserved to face the consequences of their actions. Once Zhao Shu shared this information with his trusted relatives, Uncle Qing and Aunt Qing, who had been part of Madame Neizheng's dowry, readily concurred. Yet, Zhao Shu was physically frail, and Zhao Mu held the position of his birth father. His chances of prevailing against Zhao Mu were exceedingly slim. If he were branded as unfilial due to this endeavor, even if he could clear his mother's name of this wrongdoing, it would still feel inadequate. His mother's spirit in heaven would not truly find solace. That's why he needed to find a formidable ally, a powerful supporter who could intimidate his father, without putting him in a perilous situation of replacing one danger with another. After deliberation, he brought Uncle Qing, Aunt Qing, and the others to the capital to explore their options. Initially, they considered ingratiating themselves with a prominent aristocrat. Indeed, for families like the Zhaos, influential officials were entities capable of overwhelming them. If willing, they could certainly exert authority over Zhao Mu and Ms. Qin. However, despite residing in the capital for over half a year, they struggled to identify a suitable aristocratic patron. It's important to note that the Zhao family was a merchant clan based in Jiangnan, with limited ties to the capital. They were worlds apart from the influential families in the capital. Without someone to pull strings, establishing connections with a prominent capital-based aristocratic family proved to be no easy task. Certainly, if Zhao Shu merely desired to be a spendthrift, reveling in extravagant dinners and indulging in the company of companions of questionable reputation, it would indeed be a straightforward pursuit. As long as he frequented upscale eateries and establishments of ill repute, he would inevitably cross paths with wastrels. And so long as he was willing to open his purse, these wastrels would readily welcome him as a friend. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.